Well, hello and welcome on in to another episode of Also Curious Time DCU Daily. We got a little late getting out the gates today, but that's all right. Well, we've got lots to talk about on today's show. We're gonna get into a little bit of Captain America: Brave New World. We have some box office projections for the opening weekend. Of course, we have to talk about Shrek 5. It's almost here, but we'll have to wait a little while longer to get it than what we were expecting initially. So the release date got shuffled around a little bit, so we'll talk about that, of course. Then we have to review Den of Thieves 2 Pantera. Gerard Butler is dominating the box office over Robbie Williams. You know, well received, and yet nobody went to see Better Man. So we'll get into that as well. And of course, as always, we've got DCU Daily. Andy Muschietti has continued to talk about, why maybe The Flash wasn't such a big hit, and then, maybe also we'll get into a little bit about just why he should just shut his mouth and just focus on Batman, because Batman, you've got Batman on your calendar, man. Come on. That's the biggest thing. That's the only thing you should be focused on. But is he actually talking to James Gunn? We might have some new insight on that. And of course, to end the show, we will look ahead to Back in Action. That's right. Before Cameron Diaz pulls up to the voice studio for Shrek 5, she's back in action on Netflix. Her first movie back out of retirement with Jamie Foxx. We'll get into that. To do that and so much more, of course, let's get that show started. All right, hello, and we got Tony Reyes in the chat. He says this is where the fun begins, and of course you are right, Tony. With that in mind, joining me today we have got Liz and John as always. So I'll start with you, Liz. How was your day? How was your weekend? How are you doing today?
Oh, just ducky. I'm gonna be yawning a lot, so y'all in the chat, if you want to do like a yawn count, because I worked overnight last night, did not sleep very well today, but hey, we're here. That's all that matters. Excited to chat with y'all. So happy Monday.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, we also have Michael K in the chat. Hello to Michael. Thanks for joining us. Of course, it is a late show, but we're glad that you guys are here. If you're joining us from a different part of the world, hopefully it's morning, afternoon, or evening for you, and we are glad that you're here and watching. So, John, how are you doing? How was your weekend?
It's going.
You mean your weekend is still going?
It's going. It's good, bad, who knows? But I didn't get a ton of sleep last night either, so I took a nap today. I was like, you know what, fuck this. I'm taking a nap. I don't care. But outside of that, pretty good. Doing and going,
yeah.
going and doing.
Yeah, I think we all have the same common thread of, I went to bed last night with the intention of getting a lot of sleep, and when I woke up in the morning, I didn't feel as well rested as I should have. So with that in mind, of course, we do have a busy day, another busy day. So it's been a Monday, and despite the fact that LA is slowed down by the fires, which hopefully you guys, if you're out there, you're staying safe, there's still a lot of news from the world of Hollywood, including some news that broke over the weekend. So we have to discuss it because we didn't get a chance to talk about it on Friday, even though we were practically here till midnight on Saturday. But anyway, with that in mind, let's get the show started with the news.
It doesn't seem to matter what I do. I'm always the number two.
All right, mister, I need to paint my abs on to get nominated. You don't see Robert Downey doing that.
You're kidding. You're kidding. I can't open the envelope without the...
Warner Brothers is heading back into the Matrix with a new movie in the works.
Wonder what other surprises are in store.
I want to be Bruce Wayne.
I like that. And you're gonna love me.
There's the shot right there. That.
Okay, we don't need to see
right there.
You look ridiculous.
Well, not no more, he don't.
What, dude? I can barely understand you. Your accent's insane.
What
Give me a hand up. Nope, I'm actually okay. Thank you very much. Oh, wow. Wow.
would you believe that the Rams actually knocked out the fake poser Vikings? I actually don't. I'm not surprised. But we're not here to talk about sports news. We're here to talk about
Lenny's
news from
in
Hollywood.
the chat, guys. Now
Hello,
we're gonna
Lenny.
have a really good show.
Oh yeah, and Yash is here as well. Hello, Yash. Hello, Lenny. Michael K. He's
We're gonna have
watching
the best show ever.
in Australia. The fires don't affect me. Well, we're glad that you're staying safe out there, Michael. And
Don't act
let's
like
see,
y'all
let's do
don't
the
get
math
fires,
here.
though, Michael.
Yeah, you don't.
Let's just put it in
Bro,
perspective.
don't even go
It's-
there with Australia. You have like creatures from H.P. Lovecraft's nightmares down there.
Nah, he's
alright?
in South
Don't-
Australia. He's fine.
No, I'm trying to do the math. So you're 18 hours ahead of us, right, Michael? So for you, it's like
2
6
a.m.
p.m. in the
tomorrow.
evening. It's
Like
because
three-
it's
like
18
4
hours.
4 p.m.
Yeah, he's almost
Yeah,
an
they're at the-
entire
they're
day
at
ahead
the-
of us.
yeah, they're
That's
at the
crazy.
end of their day.
4 p.m.
Thank you so much for joining us. And of course, Yash
He's
was
talking
saying
to us from the future, you guys.
pretty much. I mean, Yash was
Wild.
also saying that Creature Commandos ended on a surprisingly dull note. Well, we did review Creature Commandos last week, so
I
be sure
wouldn't
to
say
check
the
that.
entire thing was dull. It's just like I just love. Just the funny thing was like, well, it's like why do like in the first episode, Rick Flag was like, why do you have that chick with a fishbowl? And she's like, get her in water and see what happens. And she got her in water and she gets immediately yeeted. So James,
Not much
buddy, did you kind of forget that part? Because we remember.
Sure do. We were
You know
waiting for it
what?
the whole season.
Maybe there's a redemption arc for Nina Mazursky. We'll see. We will see.
What does she
But-
need redeeming? I
She
think
might
James
think
Gunn
I don't
needs
know.
redemption
I
arc
mean,
to bring her
I'm
back
just saying.
so she
Maybe
can
she'll be.
serve a point next time.
Yeah. Well, you know what? In the
Yeah,
news
maybe.
intro, we
But
have.
you know what? Maybe this murder attempt, because we don't know for sure that she's dead. Maybe this murder attempt will like be the thing that hardens her and makes her cynical and fearful of the world and suspicious of everyone. So still,
I don't know.
By
still
the
do
way-
nothing, but now with an edge. I don't know.
By the way, TC24 is in the chat, and he's like, John, that math was crazy. You're like 2 a.m. in the morning.
I was like, hang on. I meant to say PM and I
Uh-huh.
said AM by accident.
Well,
I'm-
no, but
if
it
it's
still wouldn't
18
be right.
hours,
Yeah,
that would
it's
be around
it's like 5
PM,
5:23.
PM.
How about, hey,
5:23.
Michael K, could you tell us what time it is there tomorrow, please?
Yeah.
How
Five
TC
PM.
is
about
like
the actual
I mean,
Australian tell us?
TC was pointing out how you probably said that Michael was like a good 27 hours ahead of us, which isn't possible because the Earth only has 24 hours.
Australia better than
Um,
America. I mean, that's not saying much. Like,
So it's
honestly,
so
I'd
true, and
rather
I can
live
say that
in a
Okay.
from
country
experience.
All right.
that's
So
John,
trying to kill me every 2
I'm-
seconds. But
that's
I am gonna
only
save
in
you.
central. That's only in the outback. You're fine on the coastal cities.
bro,
It's
have you
fine.
not seen the TikToks where like people are like,
I've
oh,
been
look
there,
at that
I've
fucking
been
spider,
there.
and it's as big as their wall. Like, come on.
They're not vicious. They're not gonna
Okay,
attack
I'm
you. They're
still
just
gonna
chilling.
have shit in my pants after fucking seeing one in my house. Like, oh, they're not vicious. Okay,
They're just
but
chilling.
like the old
They just wanna- they just
Cthulhu's
wanna eat
baby
the
is
other
still in my
insects. You'll be
fucking
alright.
house.
You'll be all right. You're fine. Just don't.
Jesus,
you
like
know.
I'm not like afraid of spider. Like a dust spider, I could fucking kill those things. That's fine. But it's like once I see
this is
tarantula and bigger, I'm out. I'm done. That's a hell spawn. That
Well-
doesn't deserve to live. Fuck that.
well, I wonder what Captain America says when he sees the Red Hulk coming at him. He's like, oh, I'm out. Except he can't because we are gonna be watching Captain America 4 really, really soon. And now it seems, hopefully, they've got a final cut locked in. They can't go back and change anything else. But of course, as you see on the screen here, starting off the news, we have to talk about the opening weekend box office projections for Captain America Brave New World. It's eyeing an opening that is, by Marvel standards, a little underwhelming, but by
No
just
shit.
normal movie standards, I mean, 86 to 95 million over President's Day weekend sounds pretty good to me. It's an early look, of course. Things can change over the coming weeks, but given that they've put out so many trailers, I mean, we're a little over a month away. I don't imagine this number changing too much, so I just wanted to get your opinion on this. Liz, since you are the big Marvel fan on the panel here, I want to get your opinion on this. Do you think this bodes well, that 86 to 95 million? Because I believe, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this will be kind of in line with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. It's certainly higher than the Marvels did, I believe, on opening weekend. So it's, in
Which
terms
is
of
crap.
recent MCU, it's not too bad. But in
Yeah.
terms of like, Deadpool and Wolverine, it's nowhere near what that did. So what do you think?
I mean, it's actually a surprising number for me to see that. To me, I feel like that's high given the reception that it's received so far. Nobody's really interested in this, and including myself. But the fact that it is going to be on President's Weekend, people will be, home from school, that kind of thing. So if there's nothing else going on, people will be there. Like I'm not going to necessarily call it a date night movie because it's coming out on the 14th, but I think that's a fair assessment. Again, I don't expect it to do much more than that. But I'll be there. We'll see what happens. Hopefully it surpasses my expectations. I don't think that it will though.
Now, of course, while you were giving your opinion on the matter, I looked up the opening weekends for MCU movies, and you look at the very top, obviously, Avengers Endgame, 357 million. I don't think any movie's ever really getting to that number, which is fine. But then when we scroll down the list, let's kind of see what 85 to 96 would place it. Where it would place Captain America
at the very bottom.
Well, I mean, not exactly. So, like, look, there's been like 41 releases in the MCU, including a few of them are re-releases. So, I guess you could say in total there have been 34.
So, if
movies.
it was 84, if it was the lower end number. It would be lower than the Marvels, which is the lowest.
No. That's so that column is the lifetime gross. So here, let me actually organize this. Let me organize this by.
I was like so confused. Like 84. That's okay. That makes.
So if I organize it by opening numbers, I'm sorry, that was my bad. It was organized by lifetime. So let's see. So 86 on the low end of that scale, it would be right around where Doctor Strange and Thor: The Dark World would be.
That's fair.
And on the high end, it would be right around Captain America, the Winter Soldier. So, it's not as bad. Captain America, the Winter Soldier doing 96 million, or 95 million back.
It's not the worst thing ever.
10 years later, you'd expect it to do more. But again, not. As
TC was saying in the chat, that plus it means nothing when the fucking, budget has ballooned up to allegedly like 400 to 450 million. Those are the rumors I've seen. Now, it could be bullshit, could be not, but like the reshoots have ballooned the budget, and they're not going to say that ballooned up budget. I know they're not. They're going to say maybe, the budget's like maybe like 200 million, which is still a lot, but like I think it's double that with all these reshoots and everything, but they're not going to say that reshoot budget because that would, fuck their numbers. And I'm like half convinced that modern Disney movies are like embezzlement schemes at this point, or like money laundering schemes, because like it's just like where the fuck does this money go?
I mean, if you're gonna run a monopoly, you got to figure out where the money's coming from. So
exactly. So I mean, this is like okay. I can't see. I predict the lower end, but it is President's Day. We're getting an extra day, so like. Maybe that might mean a little something.
Well, but this is the other thing, though, right? Because you just pointed out something that's really key. This number, I believe, is accounting for that extra day. So,
which makes it even worse.
Well, actually, hold on. No. I'm reading the article more closely. It says, now the movie, when it hit tracking service Quorum, which is where these numbers are coming from, it's expected to do 86 to 95 million over the first 3 days of the 4-day Valentine's Day / President's Day weekend. But then when you add together pretty much all 4 days, it's potentially going to go over 100 million. Not bad, again, not bad at all. It sort of compares to Captain America: The Winter Soldier, which is exactly what we were mentioning a few minutes ago. It's not like mind-blowingly good, but honestly, like you said, Liz, given like the fact that they've done so many reshoots and the opinions are already mixed, and you being even being a super fan of Marvel,
I'm just not enthused for it. That's all.
I'm surprised still that this movie is tracking as well as it is, because I'd imagine that maybe the interest would be lower. But then again, it's a Marvel movie. There's a certain floor that they've earned over time, and the floor is still pretty high. It shows. So as long as if they go in and people love this movie on opening weekend, then it will get the repeat business, which will hopefully then bring more people in, and that will be a good thing for the movie, making more money overall, over the course of its run. I did want to quickly, by the way, welcome in Trey's watching us live today. We've seen you in the comments, of course, but I don't know if you've been in the live chat in a while. Steven Anderson, you leave us some awesome comments. You were watching us live today, so thank you for joining us. Of course, we will bring your comments into the show later. I know you guys have some ideas for Batman, so we will talk about that when we get to DCU Daily. Lenny asking a question, John. How many reshoots have they had so far, and how long have they delayed the release? I can answer the one part of that question, which is this movie was meant to come out almost a year ago, but because of the writers' strikes, everything kind of got pushed back. So now we're getting it in 2025, which is why we have 3 Marvel releases this year, because otherwise I think originally it was only meant to be like, Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four, and, Captain America got pushed. Of course, Blade also had been delayed, but then got taken off the schedule because, quite frankly, that is never going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Go
I
ahead,
do
Liz.
want to throw in one more thing. I know we've been speculating about a full Superman trailer, and John had said, maybe for the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl comes out the week before this film comes out, and I wouldn't put it past DC to be really smart and make sure that their trailer runs before this movie's released. So I'm kind of on John's team now, where I agree. I think the trailer will come out Super Bowl, if not the week of Super Bowl, the Super Bowl night, so that they can have that ready to go.
Well,
in theaters for this
we're going to
release.
get into that later, but James Gunn confirmed that they're going to be doing stuff for the Puppy Bowl. So,
they did say a sneak peek, so he didn't specify trailer, but this would add up because if they released the trailer a week earlier, then maybe the sneak peek is something that's not in that trailer. Because we were speculating that the full trailer would be at the Super Bowl, but maybe the week of the Super Bowl they're just advertising the trailer. They do like a 30-second ad spot.
Yeah, they'll do like a TV spot of stuff we've already seen, and then like the Puppy Bowl stuff, we're gonna get a lot of like crypto footage. I feel like from there, but that's we're gonna talk about that later.
But John, my question to you would be what Lenny asked about the budget.
The reshoots. I was just gonna say. Now I don't know exactly. I believe it's been reshot at least 3 times, because there was. It kept getting, but like they added, Giancarlo Esposito's character. They like test screened the movie at least twice, and they were negative both times. Now I know test screenings don't really mean a ton, but
but they're meant to kind of find the flaws, like how the audience
means reacts. I know because there are a lot of people like, oh, test screenings don't mean anything because and all this other stuff, but like that's kind of true. But it means something to the people behind it, because then that means, well, they're gonna reshoot this movie if it's like so flawed to the point of like, oh, this is unreleasable, so we have to go back. So I know Seth Rollins had like a huge role, and then that got cut down. We were talking about that last week. Then we had the Israeli superheroine who was gonna have a really big role, and then due to not only current events but just poor reaction to her character, she got cut down majorly.
Although again, those rumors were a little exaggerated, like in terms of like just how much of a change there was, because like, I know people were talking.
I feel like that. I think I remember seeing like she was supposed to have a suit, like an actual like superhero suit, but then now she's not getting that suit, and then I think there's more prominence on the Hulk stuff, and that we're gonna get World War Hulk out of this, like after this movie. I don't see that happening. Also, New World Order, still a better title. I don't care what anybody says. But
NWO,
and then I knew you were gonna say that, so that's why I said it. But it's just like a better Brave New World. It just makes me think of the Aldous Huxley novel. So but yeah, so I've seen, like, I know Giancarlo Esposito's character, who is now, I guess, the main villain, it was like inserted into this movie like Tig Notaro in Army of the Dead style, where he didn't meet any of his castmates until Comic-Con, and he was just filming in front of green screens and shit like that. And what a fucking waste of a great actor. So yeah, I think they've like changed the plot of this movie like at least 2 or 3 times, maybe even 4 times. But yeah, I mean, it all depends because what I'm talking about in terms of reshoots is like where they like cut half the movie and like redo the story from scratch. They had to do that at least twice. So where they fucking just cut a whole bunch of shit and then they had to redo everything because the test screenings were that bad. Now, there have been like reshoots of like, oh, we need a pickup shot here. We need to do a green screen shot here. That kind of thing. That's been like kind of continuous. But I'm talking about where they had to like junk a whole bunch of the movie and then redo it again. That's what I'm talking about. But yeah, you are correct.
I mean, it's significant. We don't usually we don't see that. I mean, for movies of this scale very often, obviously, infamously we had that happen with the Justice League, which, you know, even a new director came in. But with a movie like this, look, there's still, it seems like a lot of the original pieces are still there. You know, you still have Harrison Ford, Thunderbolt Ross, you know, the Red Hulk. And even if Giancarlo Esposito's character is something that was added down the road, at the very core of it, you still have Anthony Mackie, you still have the new Falcon, you know. So
yeah.
I love that when he's like on the carrier, this really gives me Jack Ryan vibes with this particular sequence. Is like, I need.
Yeah, you know, I'm thinking more Air Force One vibes because he's the president. That's the thing I'm thinking.
Yeah,
I understand the submarine thing, but like him as the president, I'm just, I will say the one thing that would make me at least like be like, okay, I respect it, is if they say "get off my something" in this movie at some point. They have to. They just can't. You
get
can't
off my
have
lawn.
Harrison Ford
Literally.
as the president and not have him say that.
You know what's gonna happen? He's gonna Hulk out.
Do that shit.
He's gonna Hulk out, and then he's gonna say, "Get off my lawn," and then, you know, because he's on the White House lawn, and then he's gonna start fighting Captain America. That's by the way, do we know Shira Haas is in this movie, and she's in a lot of the trailers? Do we know what role she's playing?
She's that Israeli superhero. I don't know who she is. I forget the name. Like, begin with an S, I think.
Because I wasn't sure that was the character. I literally
that's her.
I'm not familiar with it. I mean, look, the Red Hulk VFX look nice. There's just so much going on here, and it's also the fact that it looks like Anthony Mackie's gonna have at least 2, if not 3, different suits throughout the movie. So there's that.
Gotta sell those toys.
But I do like that there's continuity between the suit that he had at the end of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and then eventually he ends up, it seems like in the third act, or maybe even halfway through the movie, he's gonna end up with that more traditional Steve Rogers Captain America suit, which again you want to legitimize this version of the character. He's not just a knockoff.
Sabra is her name.
Sabra, okay. I do wonder, though, just how much Giancarlo Esposito's character is going to factor into the movie, considering when you add him late in the process. I can't imagine if they shuffled pieces around and added a few new things in, that they redid it so much that the entire story of the movie changed. Like, you know, like maybe the core idea stayed the same, but they kind of moved things around. I guess we will never quite know for certain exactly how much, you know, reshooting, you know, changed the movie. Maybe not until after the fact, but. Look, 85 to, what was the number? Let's kind of make sure I'm not misquoting it. 86 to 95 million opening weekend over President's Day / Valentine's Day weekend is not bad. And like you guys said, I think it will line up well where maybe we'll get a Superman trailer that's lined up with this. And when you go to watch Captain America 4, you will get a Superman trailer ahead of it, which would be perfect. I mean, you know, Captain America, Superman sort of have similar values in terms of who they represent in their individual cinematic universes, but then also there's a lot of expectations behind this movie. Now, this is a movie that, of course, we all wanted to do well. Going into the movie theater, I'll leave my expectations at the door because, for me, I'm going to give it a fair shot. It's a movie that deserves it because, you know, I want to see what Anthony Mackie can do as Captain America. Of course, if the movie's terrible, then the movie's terrible. You know, like you can't, you know, you can't try to hide your disappointment, right? Like, so we'll see. But right now, I will definitely not try to hide my disappointment because there was some news today that I came across, which only piled on to some stuff that I've been, you know, reading up for the last few weeks, if not months, because I learned recently that last year, Warner Brothers Discovery shut down Boomerang, which is not cool. The streaming service version, they have if you have cable, you'll still get it as part of the bundle, but the streaming version is gone. That's what I was subscribed to. So I'm like, where am I gonna get my Tom and Jerry and stuff? Like, I want my Wacky Races. I want all my Hanna-Barbera cartoons.
Want
and
that
then
secret
recently,
squirrel and Magilla Gorilla action, my guy.
I mean, and recently, yeah, I mean, Scooby Doo, what was it, the Courage the Cowardly Dog, all those classics, even Kids Next Door, K&D, all those things. Anyway, so recently the Cartoon Network website stopped streaming a lot of those shows for free as well. So now the only place you can find them is on Max. And even then, the selection isn't entirely the same as what you had on the streaming services, because they're probably curating the ones that maybe they expect most people to watch versus the ones that everybody would want to watch. This is the reason why shows disappear off streaming services, because nobody's watching.
This is why
them.
physical media is fucking important, you losers. Anyway.
By the way, Man of Steel Magnolia's in the chat, and he wants a very smashy Red Hulk. If the trailer is anything to go by, this Red Hulk will smash. So, and probably Captain America.
Smash.
Super smash.
Well, because the Green Hulk can't smash anymore because Black Widow died. But anyway, let's talk about NBC Universal shutting down Universal Kids cable network.
Yeah, let's talk about Kids cable network now.
So as I was saying earlier, Cartoon Network, the website is really not. I think there's like a page, but the website, the way it used to be, where you can actually watch, like you used to be able to watch entire TV shows from their catalog, that's gone. The Boomerang app is gone. So like Warner Brothers Discovery moved everything behind the paywall at Max. So if you have Max, you can see some of that stuff, like the original Looney Tunes, Cartoon Network, cartoons, or Tom and Jerry and all those things. Now NBC Universal is shutting down the Universal Kids cable network. So this is where, in the recent years, they've been basically bringing in a lot of their DreamWorks animation, properties, which you can either, I think some of them end up on Netflix as well. So, but everything under DreamWorks catalog usually would, animation-wise, they would make a lot, like, the Chipmunk show, stuff like that would go on NBC Universal. So I did want to ask you guys, I mean, again, the strategy is similar. They're trying to now move things off the network. And this is part of NBC Universal's larger strategy, where I think Comcast is selling MSNBC and CNBC soon, because the linear television is just a money-losing business, and everything seems to be moving to streaming really quickly. So the idea here would be that a lot of the programming that would be on Universal Kids is now going to end up on Peacock, which is like the NBC Universal streaming service. So just the trend of this stuff happening, to me, it bothers me in the sense that the new selection on the streaming service won't be as extensive as what you would be able to get on the network or like, a dedicated streaming service. But I understand where they're coming from, because not a lot of people are subscribed to it. The cost of running those things, even like a network, they're probably losing money. Liz, I'll ask you what your opinion on this is. And do you feel like this is only still just the beginning of more things like this happening?
I mean, I think networks are kind of having an identity crisis right now and trying to decide if streaming is going to be their ultimate way to go, if they should continue to have programs on cable. There's just so much on cable. Now there's so much to stream. I think they're having a hard time finding a balance, because they're trying to make as much money off everybody as they possibly can. So rather than just, say, cry uncle and say, okay, let's just put everything out on both, or I just don't think they know what they're doing right now. And I think they're just kind of making rash decisions in the hopes that, I don't know. I'm really not sure. But I mean, I think it's a shame, because I still think, streaming is I don't want to say subjective, but people definitely have their views on what services that are worth their money. And certainly not everybody's going to buy in just because a new streaming service has cropped up doesn't necessarily mean somebody's going to download it. So it's a fine line to be walking right now. And I think they're just trying to figure out what they're doing at this point.
Yeah. I mean, like, again, it's part of a larger trend. It's the latest, casualty of streaming basically taking over the way most people watch their television. John, how do you see this? Because Universal Kids, there's actually NBC, Comcast, I should say, or NBC Universal at large. They're currently working on building a Universal Kids resort. And I think it's in some part of Texas. It says it in the article here. Frisco, Texas. So yeah, I mean, they broke ground on it last year. So obviously Universal Kids as a brand is going to continue to have a presence in the larger company.
Yeah.
But it looks like a lot of this content is no longer going to be, you can't watch it. It's kind of like similar to how NBC shut down NBC Sports Network and then even Esquire a few years ago. So this is, again, just, them being ahead of the curve a little bit if you want. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on this? In terms of
I
just
I didn't even know this was a
Yeah.
thing. I was like, why do we care? Because it's like another streaming service fucking bites the fucking dust. And it just, that's why I have my movies. I have like in my closet, I have my fucking like I own like 200 movies and TV shows because it's just, like piracy is gonna fucking go through the roof again. Like it's that's what it is. It's gonna be like piracy is just gonna be this huge fucking booming thing now because it like I wouldn't say it died off when like Netflix came along, but it was like okay, Netflix was like when it introduced streaming, like, wow, now that everybody has streaming and they're introducing what is essentially cable packages, but for streaming services,
Right.
it just shows that it's like nothing is safe. David Zaslav wiping like 90% of the animation from Max and shutting this down, shutting Boomerang down. It's like streaming is not permanent. And that's why, and piracy is like almost kind of important. Like that's why Internet Archive is also really important because that's technically piracy, but it's an archive. Like we're not going to have like these things on streaming, and then like there's so many things that are like out of print that you can't get anymore unless it's like astronomically expensive. So that's why archiving and weirdly in a way piracy is so important because it's like even though it's illegal, it's it's so important because that's really the only way you can like get a lot of these shows still because that's where it is. That's only where it is. The people that are like that have like these really good softwares that are ripping these shows off of these services, not just because like oh they want to watch it for free, but it's just like it's available somewhere. Like
I wouldn't
double-edged. Like I'm not gonna say I don't watch stuff on streaming. Of course, like all the time. I watch stuff on streaming services all the time. But I also at the same time I understand like it's not forever because they could pull that shit. Like, what are they gonna do with like a physical DVD? They're gonna fucking break my door down and fucking be like, give us your copy of Dawn of the Dead. It's like that's not a thing. And if that happens, they can pry it out of my cold dead hands. But I don't think they're gonna fucking do that. So that's why I am such a huge advocate for archiving and all that and physical media because it's so important because of shit like this.
No, I mean physical media is definitely important and I agree with you on that front. I wouldn't necessarily go as far as to like advocate for more piracy because I still think that, takes away a lot of money from, the people who are putting in a lot of hard work and effort into making the content that we are then they're not getting paid for that because that money then doesn't go into the royalties which they'd rely on to basically make a living from. But nonetheless, what I will say though, like with something like this, like Universal Kids isn't a network that I particularly remember at least having any personal interest in terms of their programming. It was really aimed at a much younger audience, and likely a lot of that content will end up on Peacock and then licensed to other streaming services like Netflix and Amazon. But what I did appreciate about something like a Boomerang was, yeah, maybe I wouldn't watch it all the time, which is, really what they would want me to do. But I would be able to like go in because like again it was like an archival thing, right? Like Hanna-Barbera cartoons, they wouldn't really add a ton of new things there, but the service was there so we can pay like $5 a month to access something where I want to go watch that Tom and Jerry episode. And outside of like trying to find it in little clips on YouTube, that was my way of doing it in a way that still supported the original creators. And then maybe if they were making a new movie, then that money hopefully went towards that, or at least to service the archive. So I did appreciate that. I feel like maybe where we need to go with this is over the time, in the next few years, all of these studios need to come together and be like, okay, we're going to launch like a streaming service that's kind of a joint venture. And it's really the aim of that is like an archiving function where we put stuff on there, we charge a premium, but will have to be a premium. And you might have to pay for it as much as like $20-30 a month. But then that's a service where you will get pretty much everything that is not available like, elsewhere on their primary streaming services. It's a little more complicated than just that because they'll have to figure out the individual licensing deals with everything and, certain things they would want to shop around to different streaming services. So it may, you may still have situations where one month you have something on there and then the next month is gone because Netflix licensed it for a year. So it's not a simple solution. I don't think there's no easy answer to it. But like you said, John, that kind of leads you down to the path of physical media. If you really, really want to have it when you want to see it, just get it on physical media. So
I bought Superman the Animated Series because I ain't trusting Zaslav now with his animation. Fuck that shit. I got my buddy Justice League Unlimited, the series. Well, the entirety of Justice League, not just Justice League Unlimited, but I got him that because I'm like, I don't trust him. So fuck it, you get this now too. So, I don't. It's just like I like streaming services. I like the convenience. I just don't trust them at all.
Yeah, because I mean the thing is they don't. The biggest thing from somebody who's like a consumer, like all of us, the problem is they will make, like, as they being the streaming services have the ability to, in the contract you sign when you sign up for these services, they can change the programming they have available on there, at their own pleasure. It's not up to us to decide, and at most they will give us like a notice like, oh, this is leaving this this Netflix at the end of this month. And some streaming services don't even tell you that. Netflix added that because it drives viewership to certain shows because you're like, oh my god, it's leaving Netflix at the end of this month, I better watch the next 2 seasons over the course of the next week. But yeah, it's definitely jarring because for me, like, again, this kind of hits close to home because there's a lot of those animated shows I grew up watching, and now it's going to be hard for me to kind of like source some of them. And then even for physical media, it's like a lot of those things are not like an active release in physical media, so I'm gonna have to like dig around and find some of those things potentially. And maybe some people do resort to piracy at that point, but I hope that if I can get my hands on some physical media, or maybe if it is on Peacock or Netflix or wherever, maybe that will help. But nonetheless, Hollywood, as we have talked about before, is in shock right now. They're reeling. Things are being moved around, and rightfully so, because the fires have really caused a lot of damage. Literally hundreds of homes have burned down. Hundreds of thousands of people are under evacuation orders, and every day we hear like some celebrity losing their house. Now, obviously, like we've talked about in the past, a lot of the celebrities, yes, they're losing their homes and their valuables and stuff, right. And that is terrible still because they're still human beings, and if you lose your house to fire, that still hurts like hell because there's still a lot of memories there that you now cannot go back to. But it's affecting just the average Joe out there because it's Hollywood productions have shut down. Very few shows are in production. Only some of the movies are starting to go back into production. Jimmy Kimmel is shooting, but they're staying indoors because obviously the air quality is really bad. We were talking about earlier, I mentioned at the top of the segment that the Rams just beat the Vikings. That game was supposed to happen in Los Angeles, but then it moved to Phoenix. So, because the air quality was bad, they didn't want people to congregate in such large, crowds like what you would for a football game. So they moved it from SoFi Stadium to Phoenix, where the usually the Cardinals play. So it's having a big effect. Even the NBA did not play some games for a couple of days with the Lakers and the Clippers. So with that said, we are in the Hollywood Awards season. We have had the Golden Globes happen. We have seen nominees come out for the DGA, for SAG, for the Art Directors Guild, for all the different award shows that will happen, all the different functions that happen for the Oscars leading up to the actual Academy Awards. But I came across this article today in the Hollywood Reporter, which was making a case for changing up the format of the Oscars this year. And essentially, I'll kind of boil this down. I mean, if you guys want, there's the headline, how the 2025 Oscars could save Los Angeles, and in parentheses, and themselves. You can search for this in Hollywood Reporter and go read it for yourself in detail, but I'll kind of summarize it for you guys, and I want to get your reaction to this. That they're suggesting here that not only, should they modify the format to kind of, spend more time honoring the people who have, like the firefighters who have lost their lives fighting this fire, and then, of course, try to pay tribute and maybe even find ways to raise money for those who are now displaced by the fires. But instead of just doing like a halfway measure and then continuing on with the award ceremony at large, make the whole Oscars this year into the world's biggest telethon of like the back in the day, like the 80s, like what you would remember seeing like in an episode of Full House or something. Or if you lived during the 80s, then you might have been a part of a couple. Like, of course, that famous Queen performance was part of a big telethon back in the day. So they're suggesting that maybe that's what we should do, and then that way we can use the whole event as a means to raise money to help all the the people who are affected by the fires. I will kind of also preface this before I get your opinion on this. A lot of the big companies and studios out there have been pitching in now. I think today I saw Warner Brothers Discovery donated $15 million. I think Comcast donated $10 million, like NBC Universal basically. And Sony donated $5 million. So like studios, are donating to the cause of like hopefully helping the people recover and again putting out the fires because they're still fighting a lot of the fires. But what do you think? I'll start with you on this, John. What do you think about the idea of basically upending like how the Oscars work and turning them into a telethon this year? I mean, it's almost like a two-part question because A, what do you think about the idea of doing that, the format, and then B, the consequences of that would be, I mean, the people who win the awards this year, who get nominated, don't really get their moment in the spotlight like people would have in other years. But we are coming off, the COVID pandemic. So, of course, we saw how some of that looked a little bit in terms of like what a year, because it would be hard to imagine that like years, like 5-6 years ago. But now we have an example of that. So, like, what do you think about this, the format, and then again, the consequences of potentially if they did go this route?
Remind me again, what's a telethon again? That was kind of before my time, I think. Is that just like raising money live, essentially?
Yes, essentially.
Okay.
You would have performances. You're providing entertainment to the fans.
I know that because I remember.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, but like this is the thing, right? Like back in the day when telethons would happen, you had phones with the wires on them. Right now, the only wire that I need for my phone is the charging.
I'm not that fucking old. I'm not that fucking young. I know that.
Yeah.
But I think that could be a good way of doing it. But I feel like I like the idea, but also really fucking hate the idea at the same time, because the thing I hate the most about the Oscars is when there's this pretentious, like, I don't know what the word is, proselytizing, I think is the word, of like the celebrities acting more important than they really are kind of thing. And I feel like having something where they could like donate would be like it would more be, I feel like it would be more circle jerky than anything. Like they're not doing it because they're kind, because most celebrities aren't. They're doing it because they'll get brownie points with, they think it'll get brownie points with certain people, the peasants as we're called, and all that. I don't think they would do it out of compassion. I mean, some people are compassionate, but like most celebrities aren't, and I don't think they would do that like a sort of a kindness thing. I think they would just do it because they would want to inflate their egos and make themselves feel more important than they really are. And I wouldn't want the Oscars to become that more so than they already are, that when fucking like, somebody like comes on the stage and they're like, oh yeah, this award's great, but let me tell you about climate change for 10 minutes. It's like, okay, I don't want to fucking hear that. I don't want to hear about the horrors of the world. For like the reason I watch a movie is to escape that shit. Like, I don't want to hear that. So yeah, exactly. I mean, everything about award ceremonies are pat on the back. And the Academy, I would say, is the worst one out of all of them. So I would say like, I think like it might be seen as offensive, but I mean, I think it's a little better. Just be like, hey guys, like they can have like a pop-up on the bottom, like, hey, here's a QR code where you can donate to your organization of choice to help the people with the fires and blah 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 blah. And that's like kind of it, because the thing is, you're already going to have people the big people accepting the awards, not the people that are like that win for documentary short subject, who nobody's going to know their fucking name after the ceremony ever again, who can like actually talk about like the passion of creating something rather than like, let me spoon feed you current events for 15 minutes. And so, because you're already going to have like the big actors and actresses and directors and screenwriters being like, man, this award's great, but it's a real shame about those fires, and everybody's gonna fucking bring it up anyway. So making it like a even bigger to do would just be even worse. even more annoying than it already would be. So I don't think they should do that. I think at the very most they should mention it, be like, hey, you can donate here, and then that's it. Like, because you're already gonna have, and KC, you're probably the smartest one out of all of us. So you know, I just don't think they should. No matter what anybody says, like that would, I just think that would be a horrible idea.
I mean, to me, look, it's a weird idea to suggest, because doing a telethon today, this is maybe where the idea is coming from. The Oscars, outside of like NFL games and the Super Bowl, are one of the most, if not outside of sports, the most watched broadcasts of the year. So it's one of the highest rated shows. So like, if you want to use that platform as a means to, get, funding for, and, to help people recover, I think the intention is good. But from the outside of Hollywood looking in, you can also, I remember reading one of the comments on social media about this article saying, hey, what about the flooding in Tennessee and stuff, like these other events where, things have been terrible, and like, a year has passed, and now, people are still without the kind of help that they should have gotten. And we're not doing, something like this for them. Like, this is for Hollywood, and a lot of the people who lost their homes. Yes, and again, we talked about it, like, it affects hundreds of thousands of people, and most of them do not have the means to like go to another home or be able to easily recover from the damage. Whereas, the celebrities do. Like Jamie Lee Curtis actually, I think, pledged $1 million of her own money towards the, recovery efforts. But still, like, yes, I get the idea of like, it might seem a little disingenuous, but if their heart is in the right place, I mean, they could raise a lot of money potentially, because it's not even like the Oscars are broadcast only in the US. You can watch them anywhere in, pretty much most parts of the world, on whichever network or streaming service it's airing on. I mean, Liz, what are your thoughts on this, the idea of turning the Oscars this year into just a telethon instead, to help raise money for the people who have lost their homes and been displaced by the wildfires in LA?
Yeah. I have a lot of thoughts. Lenny says nobody watches award shows anymore. That's not true. I watch every single award show.
Well, just the
not
ratings.
necessarily. I mean, to be
yeah.
perfectly honest, I watch it because I have seen all of these films. I make it a point to see all of these films. I am in the movie theater every single week throughout the entire year. So for me, I watch it to kind of see, just, okay, this is who I think should win. This is who I think they're going to give it to. I like to see who ends up getting the award. I don't watch it to necessarily, for the speeches or for the outfits. It's just one of those, like, I'm just interested in what, the group mentality's opinion is of what they consider the best picture of the year and what have you. I remember back to when Hurricane Katrina happened. They had that telethon very famously. Kanye West made that quote, and that should have been a warning to all of us. So what was to come with him? Then when Ariana Grande's, the terrorist act at her concert, she had a concert benefiting the victims after that. They are in talks of doing a benefit concert right now, specifically for the victims of this fire. I don't think it should be one and the same. I think they should absolutely delay all of the awards ceremonies. I don't think anybody's in the right headspace right now to even think about glam and makeup and getting their limo and their hotel and getting themselves to a venue to get a statue or potentially get a statue. I think everybody right now is just concerned on the next move. So I think a telethon would be a nice thing, and some type of event, variety show, what have you. Again, they're already doing a benefit concert that's already in the works. And then later on with the award show, then I agree with John. I like the idea of putting up a QR code. This is where you go to donate. These are the various charities, foundations that we know are legit, that these aren't scams. You get it right from our sources. This is where the money's going. I think that's a really good idea. But I mean, even in this article, they talk about, you should bring up victims that aren't celebrities, complete unknowns, total strangers. You should have them there with the celebs I think that's awful. I think that's really exploitative. And quite frankly, it's going to be a big turnoff for a lot of people, because here, this person lost everything. And you're going to have them stand next to a celebrity that thankfully for the most part, you would assume, has the means to recover a lot quicker than that individual is going to be. And them standing there while somebody else gets a little trophy isn't doing shit for them. I understand they're trying to put a face to the tragedy, but there are hundreds of thousands of people who are now completely destitute. They're completely homeless. They don't plan to recover. They don't think they can recover. They're probably not going to live in that state anymore. That's how bad things are. So I really don't think we need to highlight certain individuals. There was also the question of how we felt about Jamie Lee Curtis and James Woods' comments. A lot of celebrities, regardless of your politics, and we're not going to get into politics, a lot of celebrities across the board have been making the exact same statements. Listen, I don't live in California. I don't vote. Their laws do not affect me. They do not, their taxes do not burden me in any way. So I can only say that it's pretty interesting to see that every single celebrity that I've seen so far, and again, across both on both sides, Republican and Democrat, liberal, whatever you want to say, they all seem to say the exact same thing. The biggest issue they're highlighting is the over time, the massive defunding of these important services that the state clearly needs. So I'm not going to get into it any further than that, but I just found it was very interesting because again, just those two examples alone, Jamie Lee Curtis and James Woods, complete polar opposites as far as political views and voting. So for them to kind of be aligned on how they feel definitely highlights a bigger problem. But again, I don't see an award ceremony as like a catch-all or a cure-all for this issue. This is going to affect people and that states certainly for at least a decade, if not longer. The ripple effect is going to be insane. The loss of life, the loss of financial, people are just not financially going to recover. It's really awful. So I think they should be two separate things. I think they definitely should do something, and they should, again, kind of give people a list of the resources and where you can go to donate and lend your support to real factual sites, legitimate sites, rather than these scams that no doubt are going to come out of this. But I don't think that they should be. Of course, everybody's going to talk about it anyway. They are going to continue with the award ceremony. I don't necessarily think they should either. Just like they did with that 1 year with COVID, maybe you skip it. Maybe you wait till the tail end of the year. But the celebrities are going to bring it up anyway. They're going to mention it throughout the ceremony. They're going to mention it in their speeches. They're going to highlight certain things. So I think it just should be two separate events. And like John said, just throw up a QR code. Hey, if you want to help, here's where to go. We know that these sites are legit, and just leave it there.
Yeah. I mean, it's a situation where, again, doing a telethon, like John was like, I don't even know what a telethon is. Most of the people will be like, what are they even talking about? The only thing I will say is, look, as far as the case for doing it, you look at the ratings. Yes, they're not what they used to be back like 20 years ago, but still, like 18.7, that's like the millions of viewers. Like, if you can get, in front of, let's say, close to 20 million viewers and make a case for like donate money to this cause, that could have an effect. And like Hosea was saying, even though there are celebrities and they have the means to recover, the ones that we will most likely see on camera, and they're not the ones who are the worst affected by this, unlike like you said, the thousands of people who might not even be able to like recover and might have to leave the state even. It's the whole idea at its core just doesn't. I think it's a little half-baked. No matter how good the intentions are, like you said, there's better ways to do it where it doesn't seem like you're trying to attach yourself to something for the sake of getting attention, or not necessarily getting attention. The Oscars are watched by millions of people, but it just sends the wrong message in general. By the way, I just want to welcome in. We got Leonard in the chat now, as well as Casey. I believe we mentioned Casey earlier. Lenny saying they shouldn't have a ceremony this year or a telethon. I mean, it may come down to that. It will depend on, again, how things are. They will certainly try to delay it for us. As of right now, they haven't delayed the show itself, but the Academy did say that they shut down the the museum for the time being, the Academy Art Museum, but also they're canceling a few of like the luncheons and other events that happen leading up to the Oscars. Manolo in the chat as well, saying being bludgeoned by these celebrities with their political lectures at award shows over the years. Sorry, you reap what you sow. I mean, again, it's it's not because it's. Look, the thing about people, making speeches about something that they care about, a cause that they care about. Look, here's the thing: if you win an award for something that you spent your entire career doing and it's recognition for you, and you choose to use that platform to, instead of thanking the people that you want to thank, like your parents, your family, and friends, and colleagues, and instead you want to make a case for a cause that you care about. You know what? That's your time. You'd make use of it however you like.
Right.
I do not personally judge somebody for doing that.
Well, and again, it's the fact that where it is, it could be, this could happen. I mean, we had fires all up and down the East Coast a couple of months back. There are millionaires that live in my same town. If my entire town burns, guess what? It's not just the millionaire's house, it's my house too. So we really need to keep this in perspective. Like, I understand that celebrities are going to be the ones that get the most attention here, because it is quite a massive number of well-known celebrities that have lost everything. Billy Crystal's house is gone. He's lived there for 46 years. I mean, but you guys need to put it in perspective that they live amongst regular Joe Schmoes like you and I, the people that work on these films, everybody in the production offices, all of the staff, craft services. We love craft services. We thanked craft services in the last, award ceremony. It's all, there are all the little people live there too, so we really need, again, let's not get into the poor celebrities. Yes, the majority of them do have the bank account that they can recover. They do have homes in other parts of the world that they can go to. But at the end of the day, hundreds of thousands of people have lost everything. And you guys really need to keep it in that perspective. So yeah, we're talking about pop culture stuff. We're talking about stupid, things that don't really matter, like award shows. But at the end of the day, the tone is really what's important here. And we need to remember, what's really going on and what's really important with all of this.
Yeah, and then Chuck in the chat pointing out something too, that look, these celebrities might have a lot of money, but also they employ a lot of people on their properties, and they have businesses of their own, and those people are also affected as a result of this.
Right.
So
and don't twist it when somebody tries to bring that up. There was a celebrity recently that just said, I have a housekeeper that I employ 3 days a week. I have a gardener that I employ twice a week. Their livelihood is gone. They have no homes to go and work. They have no places to turn up to. Their homes themselves are gone. And of course, then everybody on socials twists it. It's like, oh, now they're asking for money, saying it's for their gardener, for their house. Jesus Christ. Like, guess what?
No, it's
Their
literally
doctors,
for the blue collar workers you're claiming are not getting attention. Oh, they do get attention. Now you're fucking it up. Like,
exactly. So it's again, like I said, this exact same thing could happen in Middle America where there is no celebrity in sight. This could happen in my town where, like I said, there's all manner of financial differentials going on. It doesn't matter. The point is, these are human beings. These are people, and they're fucked right now. They're fucked. So let's keep it in perspective. So again, I don't necessarily think that there should be an award ceremony at all. However, if there is, do a telethon first. Let's get that out in the forefront, and then put up all of those links to where people can donate, all that kind of stuff, and move on from there. But again, this is going to be ongoing. The fires are still going, so this is going to be ongoing for some time.
Yeah,
the whole situation is a mess. Absolutely, Caleb. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, and again, like, I think what John suggested and what you also suggested, we don't need a full-on telethon like back in the 80s and 90s where you would have a host and then people taking calls on air, or like, in the background, and you have, entertainment acts in the middle, stuff like that. Literally, the Oscars themselves, if they just put the modern version of that, like, you could just, like you said, put a QR code on screen, and that in and of itself is in effect a telethon, because like you said,
know how, like, they have the logo where it's like kind of translucent, where like the ABC one is like instead
the little
of that
bug,
you put a QR code. It's like it's always there, like, hey, if you want to donate,
absolutely,
cool, here you go. And then on like because I know, like, ABC.
They'll probably
or
when
whatever.
they bump out to break, when they come back from commercial, they'll also like use those moments to like pitch
Well, I
different
was saying, like, you know
charities
how
or like
ABC has like a live broadcast online.
yes,
I
yeah,
bet like the mid rolls, all of those are gonna go toward the money's gonna go towards that. They're probably gonna have like more like ads in regards to that stuff.
Yeah,
So
I would
you
hope
know,
so. Yeah.
and like
I
you
mean, I
guys said, like
presume so. I mean, again, celebrities
yeah,
love patting themselves on the back, so
Yeah.
they're gonna definitely. You know what? Sometimes it's a double-edged sword, but you know what? Fucking take it. Like, sure, you're gonna have annoying celebrities like patting themselves on the back, but you know what? At least good people are getting money that need it, who are displaced and who are affected. Like, all right, I guess. Like, sure, you're not doing it out of the kindness of your heart. You're doing it
Yeah.
for a fucking tax break. But you know
Yeah.
what? At least people are getting money. Like, fuck it. Might as well take it.
Well, and also listen, if you can't give money, if you can't donate, Red Cross, I'm donating blood this Saturday. Like I'm always trying to be out there and donate as often as I can. There are plenty of things we can all do to help one another. I mean, there are still victims from the hurricane that we had earlier this year that are suffering here on the East Coast. So it's, we've all just got to look out for each other at this point. That's what should.
It's just like at this point, everyone's just human, and we gotta, I understand it's very easy to make fun of like the rich celebs. I mean, we've been kind of doing it, but it's like at the end of the day, people's homes, their, memorabilia and like memories are gone, lives are lost, and that's just kind of how it is. So I don't know. It's just a tough thing to talk about,
yeah.
Let's move on because now
Yeah,
I'm just
I mean
depressed.
it's look, and ultimately, like you said, like the celebrities who are at the event, everybody's gonna like do their best to kind of mention and address the situation and try to like drive more support from the people watching, including I'm sure people will like pledge money of their own, like if they're accepting an award or if they're out there to give an award at the ceremony. With that said, yeah, I mean, look, the Hollywood Reporter suggesting an idea. I don't. It was probably with the right intent, but it doesn't come off the best. But yes. Now, with that in mind, let's move on to some more brighter news. And as we
Yes.
do, we're gonna do it in quick hits fashion, shall we? So I'm gonna hit that bossa nova elevator music. There we go. And we're gonna hit the quick hits. That's right. So let's start off with the first one. Succession creator Jesse Armstrong's next project is an HBO film set during the financial crisis that happened like 15, 16 years ago now. What are your thoughts on this? Looking forward to it?
Cool. Another show about rich people I won't watch because I don't give a fuck. Cool.
Liz?
I mean, great. I have heard nothing but good things about Succession. It's on the list, but again, there's just too much shit out there. Like, let me get to your first show before I start talking about your next. But hey, okay, good for him. During financial crisis, we've all been there.
Didn't care about Succession. Don't care about this. Moving on.
All right. Well, then moving along to this other story, I found this pretty interesting. John Woo Chow Yun-Fat Classics, among 156 film Golden Princess library, has now been acquired by Shout Studios.
Awesome.
Some really classic John Woo movies in there. John, what are your thoughts on this?
More physical media. Let's do it.
Absolutely.
And John Woo and Chow Yun-Fat definitely deserve it. Now I want to watch Hard
Absolute classics of Hong Kong cinema. I mean, Liz, did any of the names on the list of these 156 films catch your eye?
Just the ones I knew, and I can't remember any of them at the moment. I'm still invested in the chat here. No, I agree with what John said. Absolutely, it's a good thing.
It is. Yeah. I mean, I like Hard Boiled in there, The Killer, Better Tomorrow, the whole trilogy of. In fact, yeah. I mean, these are some excellent movies, and like you said, more physical media, John. And it's in light of how streaming is going. Maybe that will give us more selection. Now, Bad Bunny has set a residency in Puerto Rico with first shows exclusive to the locals. Of course, he is from Puerto Rico, and he does represent. They did a WWE pay-per-view down there when he even was in the match. I think it was like a TLC match. It's like he came out there with like a kendo stick, and he was diving from all sorts of ladders and through tables. He's a wrestling fan. He's been with the WWE for a while, done a lot of work with them. Actually, a pretty good wrestler for a celebrity, but he's even better as a singer and artist. So now that he's got a residency in Puerto Rico, yeah. I mean, Liz, what do you think about this?
Hey, good for them. I mean, he's very big. He's a big deal in Puerto Rico for sure. I think it's interesting. I've never heard of an artist doing this specifically in Puerto Rico. I was telling John it reminds me of like a Vegas residency type of thing. But I think that's really cool. And some of his shows, the first initial shows are going to be exclusively to Puerto Rican residents. Period. So if you're trying to travel to go see this Bad Bunny show, you're not getting tickets. Sorry.
Exactly.
So I think that's pretty interesting for sure. And it's hopefully it boosts their economy. It helps people out, helps businesses out when he does open it up to people from outside of the area. I think it's cool. Good for him. Go ahead, Bad Bunny.
Yeah. I mean, I only know this guy because of Bullet Train and that canceled El Muerto film, but make that money.
Is it canceled? Is it actually?
Oh yeah, that got canceled. It was supposed to come out of January of last year. And it did not.
I think his character is still on that train from Bullet Train. That's probably why.
Anyway,
but hey, Bad Bunny doing good things. Now, of course, Sean Bean is also doing good things. He's got a new
Is he gonna die?
Western
Who
coming
knows?
out. I think I can answer that one for you. But Sean Bean is going to be leading a new Western, The Isolate Thief. It's got a tremendous cast already. They just added 5 more people. Among those names, you've got Ty Simpkins, who was in the Insidious franchise, Jack Kesey from The Strain, Martin Sensmeyer, The Magnificent Seven, and of course country music star Brian Martin. They've also added Joe Pantoliano. And then I think Mackenzie Foy, Adaya Rush are some of the ones who were already announced earlier. Right. What do you think about this? I mean, they started filming in December of last year.
Sounds very cool. Sounds like an interesting film. I might go.
Yeah, I haven't seen Sean Bean in a minute, so good for him.
Yeah.
And hopefully he doesn't die.
I mean, he hasn't
come
died.
on,
Never,
probably
he didn't
will
die in the first National Treasure, and he didn't die in Percy Jackson and the Olympians.
Well, because it was a Disney movie, like of course they arrested his character. I remember that movie very fondly.
It's okay, Caleb. Honka honka. It's okay.
El Muerto's real to me too. Damn it. All right, moving on. So let's get into a little bit of Marvel, shall we? The Russo brothers say that for a while they just couldn't figure out an idea for Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars. I mean, they gave their main man, the writers that work with Stephen McFeely, a call, and he was like, F no, absolutely not. Like, I'm not coming back, and he hung up. But then the next morning, he called them back, and he was like, you know what? I might have an idea for you. So ultimately, they said that they ended up stumbling upon an idea that activated all of us. Of course, we know that the Doomsday script, according to a report, if the report is true, that script is still, in the works. But the idea that the pitch, obviously, Kevin Feige loved it to the point that they're bringing back, Tony Stark, or well, I should say Robert Downey Jr. playing a version of playing Doctor Doom, obviously. A variant of Tony Stark, maybe from a parallel universe. Liz, what do you think about this? The idea that Stephen McFeely initially was really like, I'm not coming back. Hell no. This was you're asking me for another 2 Avengers movie scripts, but then they were like, there's an idea. It's kind of like in Avengers Endgame, where Tony Stark's like, hell no, I got a family, but then he thinks about it overnight, and then he solves time travel, and he's like, well, Cap, I've got an idea. Is that what happened here?
That's because he wants Spider-Man back. He missed Tom Holland. I think this is a really dumb quote. Like, I feel like it could have been worded differently. Like, to me, I read all of this and I was like, this is not the way you sell a movie. This is not the way you sell an idea. Like, to me, it just sounds like they're like, we had nothing. We got together and we're like, cash grab, let's make it work. That's what this reads to me as. So they need to figure out a different way to package this thing and say, hey, what about doing this? The guy said, oh, not really. And then that sparks something. Okay, great. Let's get together and bang it. Like, it just, the wording of all of this sounds really
It's very
shitty.
weird.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Anyway, I'm not going to see either of these movies, so I don't really care.
All right, moving on then. Moving a little further back in time as far as the MCU is concerned, Stanley Tucci recently said that Captain America: The First Avenger was quote-unquote one of the greatest roles and jobs he's ever had. He was cast to play a 70-year-old man at the age of 50, so that was disturbing. I mean, and he probably said it in the Stanley Tucci way, so it sounded better than maybe the way I'm saying it. But you know what? He said, that's all right. I it was one of the best jobs and roles that I had.
I mean, first Avengers fucking underrated as fuck. So
it was, you know what, that movie just gets. I think I didn't give it enough credit when it first came out. I enjoy it more now than I did back then because I was like, I want to see good DC movies at the same time, and DC was sort of like the Dark Knight trilogy and then Man of Steel, but then things didn't really go too well after. But Captain America: The First Avenger is honestly just a really well put together movie. Like you said, one of the most underrated. Joe Johnston.
Yeah, it's just really interesting for him to. I'm wondering, was it the best role? Like, was it the biggest paycheck he ever got in a film? Because I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, you were in Beethoven, dude. Like he's been in quite a number of films and quite a variety of films. So to have him say that this is his best, I'm like, you were in Devil Wears Prada. Like, you've been in a lot of other things and got. I mean, he was just in Conclave. He might get nominated for something in Conclave. Like, I'm wondering if he's referring to the paycheck. Like, it was the best job for the most amount of money I ever made, so I had a blast. I would feel the same way.
Maybe he wants another paycheck. Maybe that's why.
Hey, he'll come back. Yeah, you never know.
I mean, John, what do you think? I mean, to be honestly, I didn't even think he looked like a 70-year-old in the movie. I'm like, really?
No,
I thought he was trying to be like 55 or something at best.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is great because like it's an underrated movie. Stanley Tucci's a great actor. So the fact that he's like, hell yeah, this was like the performance of my career. I'm like, all right, hell yeah, let's fucking go.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see him back in the MCU, honestly, if it were up to me. But hey, Better Man, based on the life and times of Robbie Williams, who, of course, I think if you were from the UK, you probably know more about Robbie Williams.
What the fuck were they expecting? Oh my god, this guy that nobody outside of the UK has ever fucking
I'm
heard of.
shocked by this. I'm genuinely.
Let's distribute it in the US.
I'm genuinely shocked by
it bombed? Look,
no. You're so out of line, John. I'm genuinely shocked. I'm seeing it tomorrow. I personally cannot wait. I've been thrilled
it's a great movie.
Ever since I saw. But my point is, every single person that I have spoken to, you being the exception, John, has told me they are looking forward to this film.
Yeah.
So I'm just shocked that they're considering it a bomb because I can't tell you how many people are planning on seeing it.
You know 100 million people? If that's the case, then like I'm a little shocked that it hasn't. But it's like many people that are going to go see this movie.
Even for Wicked, like I knew a couple of people that were like, I'm not going to go see that. Every person that I've spoken to, aside from you, again, that has seen the trailer for this is like, yeah, it looks amazing. It looks really awesome. I really want to see it. A lot more people know who Robbie Williams is than you're giving credit. Because he had a very successful solo career. He's had a very successful career with
he's been
in quite a number of
bunch of other people I know have not heard of this fool before this goddamn movie.
You are also much younger.
I'm like, who is Robbie Williams? I know Robin Williams. Are they doing a biopic about him? Honestly, that would be fire. But Robbie Williams, never heard of the guy.
I don't know, man. Get out of the house. I don't know what to tell you. Rock DJ, Angel's his biggest hit.
Never fucking heard of any music, any song.
He's broken records overseas for concert venues. I mean, Google him. I don't know what to tell you, babe, but all I know is I'm going to see this tomorrow, and I am beside myself with glee. I'm going to cry. I'm going to applaud. I might sing along a little bit. I can't fucking wait for this film. So I hope that it picks up. I hope that people aren't deterred by this headline.
Hey,
because,
Hunter,
again, everybody that I've seen is looking forward to it. Thank you, Caleb. Angels is a banger, but Rock DJ is still my personal favorite. But anyway.
I mean, look,
no, thank you.
So just this, we got into the conversation before I could really even set the stage.
You lived in the UK.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard Robbie Williams music. It's not particularly like something that I would like put on a playlist of my greatest personal like favorite hits, but I recognize that he's got star power. I think the fact that they did the whole like gimmick thing with like he's like an animated CGI monkey.
It wasn't his idea. It was the writer's idea, but everybody says
I get it, but it sort of feels like a gimmick done to be a gimmick because it's like piece by piece.
The reasoning behind it's like I kind of get it, but it's like it still feels gimmicky. Like you feel more for animals that get abused than people, so it's like okay, I can kind of see that, but it still feels gimmicky.
That's not
exactly.
Right.
It's not reason enough. It's not. I'm just saying.
That was one of the reasons in one of the articles. They're like, yeah, that was. I remember reading That was like one of the reasons why.
But that's not why he went ahead and did it. That's just what they're implying from it. But anyway, I can't wait. I'm so excited. Can't wait to tell y'all about it after I see it. It's gonna be a banger.
I'm sure it's great.
Very fun.
I just have
Very
no interest.
Well, but also he did say too that he wanted to do something different because of all the other biopics that now, and he
exactly.
Was like,
so that's why I kind of respect. That's why I kind of respected the fucking Pharrell Williams one. I'm like, okay, it's Lego. That's kind of cool. And then you said that sucked. So I'm like, okay, that's a shame. But
it was behind the music and
I'm
Lego.
like, all right, cool. He's a monkey. That's great. Like,
yeah.
I mean, look, I've watched some of the behind the scenes of how they shot some of the sequences. It looks fantastic. The reviews are great. It just happens to be that the movie came out like in wide release this week, and on a budget of 110 million. Paramount was probably hoping to make more than 1 million domestic, 1.1 million, and then worldwide it only made $10 million. I mean, honestly, it also, like, on top of the money they spent on making the movie, Paramount spent like 25 million just to acquire the rights to it. So there's no way it's gonna make its money back. But hopefully, if it gets more awards attention and the award season, as we've been talking about, maybe that will help drive more attention to it, because this movie is also directed by the same director who did The Greatest Showman. And if you remember, The Greatest Showman was doing well, but once it won some Oscars, it had a pretty significant bump from that. So hopefully, Better Man can recover, because Robbie Williams certainly, in his day was huge. And then again, even though he's not somebody who's as well known outside of the UK, I mean, obviously, Liz, like you talked about,
well, and I think they're probably you're probably going to hear a lot more of his songs now. Kind of have a little re-release action. So I think that'll help too. I can't wait for it. I'm seeing it in less than 24 hours.
Even my friend who was making fun of this movie more so than I was like, oh, that's.
Thank you, Ricardo. Thank you.
I was like, okay, cool. I was like, I praised the unique concept. I'm like, I'm not interested, but like, cool. This sounds like an interesting idea. My friends were like lambasting this movie from like day one. They're like, this looks like the dumbest movie ever. They're like, oh, look, it's the monkey movie, and all this other shit. My friend who made fun of it the most begrudgingly had to say that was actually a really great movie. So I'm like, eat a fucking dick, man. There you go. So shut
this
the
is
fuck
what I'm
up.
saying. This is why I'm shocked. I'm shocked that it's a bomb. And again, I hope this stupid article doesn't deter people from seeing it in theaters.
Maybe it'll get people
it's a great popcorn movie. It's going to be a great popcorn movie.
Guys, go see Better Man. Honestly, now I might
come
see
on,
it out
come
of
see it
spite.
tomorrow with me.
I might see it out of spite now, just to like.
You're just gonna hate watch it.
All right, well,
no, not hate watch it.
I don't know.
It's just like spiting the shitty, more popular movies that are coming.
Another
Mufasa.
movie.
Fuck you, Mufasa. You're not taking my money. I'm gonna go see a monkey movie instead of a lion movie.
You want an animal movie? Robbie Williams, Better Man. Don't fuck with Mufasa, Better Man.
I'm gonna become like a Robbie Williams stan now because of this movie.
You will.
I'm sure he's great. Like
poor Dan. Poor Dan's trying to keep it moving.
What's his genre? I'm like, what is his
he's
genre?
He's a pop star.
Okay, I might pop. Anyway, sorry.
Look up the video for Rock DJ and you'll understand all you need to know about this man.
Okay.
Anyway, go ahead, Dan. Sorry.
This is supposed to be quick hits.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say, so another movie that John might watch out of spite will be Fantastic Four: The First Steps.
Actually, I might watch it. But
now, of course, Julia Garner is playing the Silver Surfer in this new iteration, and she's been talking about there's a whole new universe of ideas and stories that are opening up as a result of this. She was actually, doing an interview with comicbook.com, and she's promoting her upcoming movie Wolfman, because that's another one that she's a part of, and then just reflected on the shooting process, the principal photography for Fantastic Four: The First Steps, and or the Fantastic Four: First Steps. I keep saying it the opposite. She kind of was asked about what stood out to her about that project during production, just the grand scale of the film, and she said, I mean, just how big it is. It's a big universe, and I feel so grateful I get to be a little part of it, to be honest. I mean, to you, Liz, does this just feel like, again, she's an actress who doesn't necessarily do a lot of big studio pictures, who was just amazed to be on a set the size and scale, or, just the many different sets I'm sure that they were shooting on? Or is this a hint that maybe, this Fantastic Four is opening up a whole new timeline of possibilities that will then eventually, I guess, merge with the main timeline of the MCU, because this Fantastic Four doesn't come from the sacred timeline. Like, what are your thoughts on what Julia Garner said?
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if that's the direction that they go with it, and especially, you know, the few renderings that we've seen, the couple of paintings and stuff that we've seen, does kind of give us that thinking that it's going to be a separate timeline. I'm just excited they're finally talking about the various actors in this fucking film, because they really haven't gotten any love. It's all been about RDJ and whatever role potentially that Chris Evans is going to play coming up. But I'm just glad that they're finally talking about this film, and they're talking about it with the main cast. So that's great. I love Julia. I think she's not only an excellent actress, but she's been in quite a significant variety of roles that it, like, no role is the same. And this is the biggest scale she's ever worked on, but I mean, she's worked on full series before. She's worked on
isn't she going to be in the new Wolfman movie?
As Dan just said, he's in Wolfman that's coming out. So I'm excited for her, and I hope this just continues to open further doors for her. That's for sure.
Yeah. Somebody's telling us that the music is really loud. We'll work on adjusting that. Yeah, I mean, Chris is asking, by the way, hello Chris in the chat. He's asking, when did Fantastic Four finish filming?
A couple weeks ago, I think.
Was it? It was more than that, actually, at this point, right? It was late last year, is what I'll say. I think it was December. Caleb's actually excited for the Fantastic Four movie. So yeah, I mean, I am too. I want to see what this looks like. I want to see what this new Silver Surfer.
Yeah, I mean, I like the retro futurism aspect, but
I do.
I don't know how good it'll be.
I think we all agree that this movie has potential. Just whether it will achieve that potential or not, or live up to the potential or not, we'll get to see. Hopefully very, very soon, which we will. It's going to be coming out in July, only a couple of weeks after Superman. Speaking of movies coming out, Shrek 5. Shrek 5, oh my god, Shrek 5. Can you believe that the last Shrek movie, like the fourth one, came out in 2010? Like, if there was a kid born in 2010, they would be 14 years old today. And by the time Shrek 5 comes out, they could potentially be getting their driver's license, or at least their learner's permit in the US at age 16. Like, a high school kid's worth of time has passed by. But Shrek 5 is finally happening, but it was set to come out in July of 2026. And they just, Comcast kind of did a bit of a shakeup with NBC Universal, saying that, hey, we're going to push Shrek 5 back a little bit to December 2026. And then Minions 3, which was originally set for, I believe it was spring or summer of 2027, got moved back to basically
that's what we really fucking need.
The previous release date. So July 1st, 2026 is now where Minions 3 will land. And then Shrek 5 is going to come out on December 23rd, 2026. So, of course, the Minions is part of the Despicable Me franchise, which that franchise has owned like the July 4th weekend release date over the years. I mean, the last Despicable Me movie, the fourth one, it made like $969 million. Like low-key, almost $1 billion. And it wasn't even the best movie in the franchise. Now, of course, they usually alternate between the Minions and the Despicable Me movies, so it makes sense that the next one is Minions 3. But obviously, they're working on it fast enough that they moved it a whole year back. I wish they did this with the Batman. Listen up, Matt Reeves. From June 30th, 2027, Justice for Batman, to July 1st. So they moved it pretty much a whole year forward, whereas now Shrek 5, you have to wait another 6 months. Liz, what do you think about this? Are you willing to wait another 6 months for Shrek 5, or are you just like,
I don't care. It's been 14 years. You just said, Dan. Posty just said that they've had 4 kids between Shrek 4 and 5. So who the fuck said, hey, you know what we really need? What we've been missing in life is Shrek 5 after 14 years. Who on
I'm
earth?
all for it. The shit posters and the memers are gonna have a field day
I'll
with this.
see it and I'll enjoy it, but I haven't been sitting at home being like, when's Shrek 5 coming out? Why don't we have a Shrek 5? What's going on with Shrek 5? There are plenty of other fucking original ideas we could come up with, I'm sure of it. And same thing with Minions 3. I don't give a shit. I'll see them. Okay, great, whatever the fuck. It's stop giving Matt Reeves shit if you're excited for Shrek 5 after 14 fucking years. You all need to pick a lane.
I am excited.
You can't have it both ways here. You can't have it both ways.
I can have it both ways because the Shrek 5 is gonna make $1 billion. It's gonna be a huge hit.
It sure will.
$3 billion.
I just can't wait for Smash Mouth to make it to the top of the charts again.
Universal's gonna be
Jared Leto
popping.
is Shrek now.
Hey now.
Jared Leto's gonna
You're
play
a rock
all
star.
the roles, Caleb, and it's gonna be the most. It's Shrek kills Morbius. That's the movie.
Universal parks are gonna be popping in 2027. That's
it's gonna
all
be
I know.
amazing. It's gonna be the
Holy
greatest.
shit.
It's gonna be.
They need to like incorporate some of those fluffy jokes, like the donkey, or like I just want to hear.
Did
Shrek
you hear the
scream,
donkey
Fiona!
died? Did you hear that?
No.
The donkey
No,
just
since
died.
when?
The donkey
What
that
donkey?
they used to render this donkey, the donkey that was the inspiration to draw this donkey.
Oh man,
has just
I hope
passed away.
I hope they have like a dedication to
Like
her, to the
literally a
donkey
week
at the
ago,
end.
he just passed
That's
away.
so terrible.
Yeah.
Well, and in honor of Donkey, the real Donkey,
Go
Eddie
see
Murphy will
Shrek
voice.
5.
It's crazy
I
because
didn't even know there was a Shrek 3. That's the worst one, by the way.
Justin Timberlake was in that one. That was his debut. Was Justin Timberlake.
He was
in Shrek
fucking
3.
Arthur, wasn't he, or whatever? God, I
Man.
barely remember that movie. I went to go see that
again,
in the
I'll
theater,
see it.
and I'm like,
Give a flying. I really.
By-
I don't.
by the
Shrek
way-
1 and 2 are great. Shrek 3 sucks donkey dicks, pun intended. Shrek 4, surprisingly underrated.
I've
you
said this
know
before.
who sucks that. Never mind. I'm not gonna go there.
No. So I said this before. Emperor's
Rock.
New Groove and Shrek
No.
and the first Shrek came out around the same time, and people were split. I was an Emperor's New Groove person, so that's kind of where my
Emperor's
head
New
is
Groove
always
is the
at
better movie. I would
when
say.
I hear Shrek. So
I wanna
could
see a
give
live
shit.
action remake of that.
I'll see it.
No,
I'll see it, but I
don't give
care.
them any ideas, Dan.
Oh my god, a live
Jesus
action
fucking
Emperor's
Christ.
New Groove would be hilarious, but you have to cast the original cast. So we need David Spade. We
Well,
need
Eartha
John
Kitt,
Goodman.
Kitt, she's dead.
We need
What, are you gonna weekend at Bernie's her?
a
throughout the
drag
movie?
queen. No, we could have a drag queen play her.
Yeah, get
That would be
RuPaul
fucking great.
playing Eartha
I would
Kitt.
die. You
Yeah.
know what? I'm gonna talk to my podcast producer. We're gonna make it happen.
By the way,
That would be fucking brilliant.
Disney also did move Ice Age 6 to pretty much the same week as Shrek 5. And you guys were asking, like, they must be really confident. Well, I mean, look, Christmas is the time of the year where literally you can have
Ice Age
5
6.
blockbusters out at the same
Jesus
time. They will all
Christ.
make money. So, and you know what?
The
They're
Ice
trying to
Age
take
movies
advantage.
are longer than the Ice Age. Like, are we not?
I know,
doing this?
I know. I can't believe we're on the 6th movie. Do you guys
I will
remember
say
the...
They
First
should
Puss in
all
Boots
be
is not
frozen
that
right
bad.
now. They should all be fossilized at this point. It's ridiculous.
By the way, the original studio, Blue Sky Studios, that used to make the Ice Age movies, they were based in Connecticut until like Fox sold them as part of the whole deal to Disney, and then
Fucking
eventually
Fox,
Disney
man.
merged them into their like bigger studios out west. So that was it. I mean, but nonetheless, Ice Age 6 and Shrek 5, they're gonna look to take advantage of the off year where there's not an Avatar movie coming out in Christmas. So they'll try to get
They're
all that
already-
money while they can.
They're almost wrapped on Avatar 4 already. 3 is in the can. They're all.
I mean, they shot some of it for like the second movie because remember James Cameron said he
Yeah.
shot like parts of Avatar because like the kids would have
They're
grown up.
They're basically just gonna keep going. They're not gonna stop
Yeah.
in between anymore. So
Yeah.
that'll be interesting.
Jim Cameron's just like full steam fucking ahead with this
And
franchise that nobody yet everybody cares about. It's
Yep.
Schrodinger's franchise.
I think America doesn't care, but clearly the rest of the world does. So.
I guess so.
Are you kidding me? America cares. That movie made
I'm
like
gonna-
half
I'm
a
looking
billion
up the
dollars
box
in America
office
alone.
mojo. I'm looking it up now.
It-
Look
it-
up the first Avatar, Papyrus Bold. Let's go.
I did like the second one better than the first one, so they will. Keep
I
doing
think
it.
the second Ice Age is the best one, and
So,
then Puss
okay.
in Boots.
So
I agree
here's
with
the
you,
thing for the-
Caleb.
okay,
That second
so Liz
movie
is
was
definitely
amazing.
right on this because so the domestic gross for the first Avatar was 785 million. For
you.
the international alone, 2.1 billion
Thank you.
dollars,
Thank you.
and it made almost passed the threshold for 3 billion. But if you count re-releases, it definitely did. But yeah, it's
Also,
crazy.
fun fact: Zoe Saldana is the only actress in the entire world that is in all 4 of the top 4 highest-grossing films of all time. The only actor in all
Wait,
4
isn't
of the
Isn't
top 4.
Titanic
That's
one of
fucking
them?
cool.
Well,
No.
but
Not
Titanic
anymore?
is
Okay.
no Titanic is one of them, isn't it? Like, cause it's so
She
it's
was in the top 4.
Avatar.
It's Avatar.
Avatar 2.
Yep.
I mean Avatar, The Way of Water, Avengers Endgame, and then is that Titanic after Endgame?
No,
Or is
she's
it Infinity?
She's in the top 4. Yeah, now you
Is
guys
it
are gonna
Infinity
be
War
doing
is number 4? I
I
thought
guess
it was like
Titanic's number
Titanic.
5.
Yeah.
Is it really? Well, I mean, whatever.
I guess. Hold on.
I don't care, man. James Cameron still owns like 3 of the top 5, and they're not even
like,
for him. They're not Avengers movies.
And then like for the newest one, 1.6 billion was for international, and about 600 million was for the U.S. But that's still a lot. That's still fucking a lot for domestic alone.
Yeah. Dude, people don't realize how big of a hit Titanic was. That movie made $1 billion in the 90s. In the 90s.
It would be the top. It would be the top 3 because that's Avatar.
Okay, because Titanic isn't there. Okay,
that's what I thought. That's what I was like. Titanic.
Excuse me. So she's in 4 of the top 5, but again, she's the only actor.
Yeah, that's pretty fucking awesome.
That's fucking cool, dude. And Marvel's got her, gang.
Actually, 3 of the top 5.
How's this becoming a Marvel versus
Star
DC
Wars
thing,
7?
Allison?
I'm going off of worldwide.
No, I just pulled it up. I'm talking about the 4. Anyway, moving along. Moving along.
Clearly the interest is still there. I mean, look, I think Shrek 5 is going to become the first $1 billion. Because, guys, Shrek 4 wasn't even the best one, but I think Shrek 4 made like 700 some odd million dollars.
It did. I just checked.
It's crazy, right? Like, so like it's
800 million.
Yeah, it's
and with
insane.
the shit
this
posters
franchise is gonna
and the memes, that's gonna crank that shit up.
Oh yeah, and I remember the audible cheer in the movie theater when at the end of like Puss in Boots 2, the camera pans because he's like, I gotta go see some friends first, and it's like, you know, far, far away, and I was like, oh my god, I almost wanted to like yell out like a donkey like into the movie theater. Anyway, but that would have been so fantastic.
You fucking coward.
What are we doing here? What are we doing here?
To be fair, I was also a coward. I wanted to yell when Daredevil showed up in Spider-Man No Way Home, but nobody else did, and then I got too afraid. I got too afraid. And then I was gonna do it the second time, but then I think I was just like, woo, but nothing crazy.
Oh, come on, you gotta be loud. You gotta commit to
He's
the
a
woo.
really good lawyer. He's a really good lawyer.
Really good lawyer. Well, with that said, guys, that brings to a close the news and the
quick hits that by the not so quick, but that's beside the
Not so
quick.
quick.
We don't know.
Well, today it wasn't so quick. But you know what? The show continues. But let us know in the comments what you guys think about all those stories and your thoughts and comments. If you're in the live chat, keep on sticking around because now we're gonna switch focus. Keep on keeping on, because we now have to talk about Den of Thieves 2. Den of Thieves 2 Pantera is the return of course, the great Gerard Butler, who is just, you know, still milking the box office like a 90s action star, except he's doing it into 2025. And it still amazes me to this day that this man, you know, has just mastered the art of just, you know, great filmmaking in a time where action stars don't really exist anymore. And yes, I did say great filmmaking and Gerard Butler in the same sentence because, I mean, honestly, his movies don't win awards, but they do enough to, you know, basically pay the bills, but also just entertain you. You know, you want to grab a bucket of popcorn, go to a movie theater, and watch a Gerard Butler movie. By all means, I don't think he will disappoint you. This one, of course, you got O'Shea Jackson Jr., you know, the Ice Cube Jr., as I like to call him sometimes, and you've got Gerard Butler coming back in a sequel that is, quite frankly, I felt like I was like, wait, is this really 7 years ago? Like almost 7 years ago. 2018, I believe, was when the first Den of Thieves came out. And for this movie to be so far, you know, removed from that. I mean, of course, there's the pandemic and stuff like that. But Liz, since you went and saw the movie, I want to get your opinion on this. What did you think about Den of Thieves?
I liked it. I was surprised by it, honestly. I liked it a lot more than I thought that I would. And the story had kind of a twist to it. It was some extra elements that weren't present in the first one. Again, I was disappointed because the first one had that great ensemble cast. But this one still has an ensemble, but there wasn't a lot of humor, wasn't a lot of joking around. It was pretty serious, but it was good. It's a good action flick. It's a good heist flick. The heist isn't as involved as it was in the first film. But I enjoyed it. I'm really surprised. I mean, you see those box office numbers. I'm shocked that it took the box office this weekend, to be perfectly frank, because I don't know anybody that was going to see it other than myself. Like every time I would bring it up in conversation, people would be like, I thought about it, but I don't know. Or some people some people in the chat here didn't even know there was the Den of Thieves 1, an original film. So I'm shocked that it pulled in the numbers that it did, especially when Better Man is considered a bomb. What, you guys, between Robbie Williams and another Gerard Butler smash and grab? I don't know. Come on. But I did. I enjoyed it. It was interesting, and check it out if you've got the time. That's all I can say. It's it's a guy's movie, for lack of a better term, but it's all right.
Yeah. Well, we got Ron in the chat now joining us. Elite Easy E. Of course, yeah. Some of you guys talking about like, yeah, you're as surprised as we were because this movie, like, literally, I think Gerard Butler has aged. You could see visibly aged since the last movie came out.
But that's kind of where they were going with his character as well. In the very first scene, you see him leaving family court. His life is falling apart. He's a mess. His career's not doing so great. He's got this burden of this crime that he didn't exactly solve because he didn't get his man in the end of the first film. Spoiler alert. So that's kind of where we find him after all this time. But again, it was I don't want to say it was very different from the first film, but there were definitely some different elements to it and the way they told the story. Again, to me, it wasn't as heisty as the first one was. The first one seemed way more complicated than this one did. But again, it's a good little action flick, good little heist movie, and it's a nice continuation of the first film, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of sequel where I think the movie did well on digital and like physical media and stuff, like in post theatrical distribution, enough that they were like, you know what, a few years down the road we can commission a sequel. It'll have a smaller cast, because remember the cast for the first movie was much bigger, and maybe a more contained story. And you focus it around, of course, Gerard Butler being the main lead. He was the lead of the first one too, but of course here he takes even more of a center stage role. So
he was he kind of shared. He really wasn't as out in the forefront as much in the first film.
It was more of an ensemble cast, but I mean, again, he was probably the biggest name in the marquee. But like, whereas this is now a Gerard Butler vehicle. And yeah, I mean, look, it's doing well enough for itself. I mean, this is the kind of movie where I think the producers did the math correctly. Whereas with Better Man spending 110 million and they've only made 10 million of that back so far. This movie has a much smaller budget. Probably like a fraction of that. Like I believe like no more than maybe a quarter or 1/3 of that 110 million. And this one, Den of Thieves 2, if I remember correctly, reading in the Variety, while Better Man tanked with 1 million at the opening weekend, Den of Thieves 2, they got in 15 million at the opening weekend box office.
Yeah.
That right there, they're probably running to the bank and toasting champagne, thinking about just how well this movie is done. Because again, I think part of the reason why this movie even got made is because they don't even expect it to do as well at the box office. They're looking at like the paydays from like when this movie ends up on streaming, on digital, on like, and especially like once they sell it like pay 1, pay 2 windows, so that it ends up on Netflix, then it goes to like HBO Max, and then it get moved around and local distribution in other parts of the world, whether it's Europe, Asia, like Africa, like South America. That's where these movies are structured as such, where you have a smaller film in today's world where they expect that they'll take whatever they get at the box office because it will help the profile of the film once it gets out there in distribution. But then we'll all be watching it on some streaming service like HBO Max or something down the road. Like, oh, I remember that. I want to check it out. And you know what? Quite frankly, you could do a whole lot worse than Den of Thieves 2. Looking really quickly at the Rotten Tomato score for this movie, 59%. I think it was hovering over 60% for the longest time, but just I think earlier today dropped below 60s, and now it's officially not fresh anymore. But
again,
you can see the audience
I enjoyed it, but
I'm
really shocked by that box office number. I really am.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think it's shocking when you compare it to Better Man, but honestly, for a movie of this scale, I think it's perfectly fine. If anything, is doing what it's supposed to do, right? Like I think is making the money that's supposed to make, and is doing his job, quite frankly. And you know what, Gerard Butler is still a bankable commodity, and he's gonna be in that live action How to Train Your Dragon movie, so he's still doing big things, but also these smaller movies. He's one of the few action stars like Jason Statham with like A Working Man. Last year he did Beekeeper, where there's very few of them, far and in between, like these guys, like between Jason Statham and Gerard Butler, who can kind of be the Sly Stone and Arnold Schwarzenegger of the 80s and the yesteryear, the 90s. Because today the box office just doesn't, I think The Rock kind of had his era, but Dwayne Johnson doesn't quite bring you know, he doesn't have the pull that he used to have in the peak of his prime. But Gerard Butler on a smaller scale, and even Jason Statham still doing it. Well, yeah, but Gerard Butler has a full head of hair, so like he doesn't need to worry about that. Um, but nonetheless, I mean, look, the movie to me looks interesting. I will, probably go into the movie and be like, you know what, I'm just gonna turn my brain off, have fun, watch it. I'm not looking for something that's gonna win awards or like change my life or my views on life and the world at large. But Den of Thieves 2, Gerard Butler is back, and Gerard Butler is doing good things again. And you know what? He's probably a producer's best friend because every movie he makes like a good amount of money. He
Yeah.
probably doesn't ask for the
And
world
he's
in terms of
killing
like
it
his
on
payday.
streaming too. His
It's
older projects right now are killing it on streaming
yeah.
as well.
I love the whole Fallen trilogy. I hope to do more of those. Like from
There's
Olympus
one
Has
coming out.
Fallen, London Has Fallen,
Yep.
Angel Has Fallen. The next
There-
one will be like Butler
Night,
Has
no,
Fallen.
it's called Night. Night Has Fallen. That's
Night
coming
Has
out.
Fallen.
They're-
Oh my
they're getting-
god.
they're in
Now it's a
pre-production.
time of day. This is great because now what they will do is they will be like the morning has fallen, the afternoon has fallen, the evening has fallen, the dusk has fallen. I don't know.
11Z's has fallen.
It's exactly. It's just gonna be. They just need to keep making those. Yeah, this
That's
is
how
a
I feel about
lucrative.
Tom
It
Cruise.
is.
Keep making all the
Keep
the
making
Mission
them.
Impossibles you want. Just keep doing those. Don't do anything else. Keep doing those.
Yep. Jason. By the way, Hosea suggesting Jason Statham as Black Mask. I wouldn't mind seeing that. You know what? Give me the accent. Give me the whole thing. Manolo's like, I've fallen and I can't get up. Well, there you go. And on that note, Manolo, please seek some medical attention or call somebody nearby. I do not know if we can call 911 for you. We don't even know if you're in the U.S. But with that in mind, let us know in the comments, guys. Did you guys watch Gerard Butler's and O'Shea Jackson Jr.'s, Den of Thieves 2, Pantera. I don't know why they added the extra Pantera in there, but Den of Thieves 2 is out now. Let us know in the comments what you thought about it. Hit that like button while you're watching. We do movie reviews each and every week. Last week we reviewed the Wallace and Gromit movie. Next week we're gonna review Cameron Diaz back in action with Jamie Foxx. So, and then Wolfman is out as well. So I'm sure we're gonna get a look at that. But in the meantime, we have to move on to the signature segment of the day, mega death. Yes. Thank you, John. Thank you so much. That I do appreciate that.
You're welcome.
All right, get out of here. Let me do the introduction. Welcome on in to another episode of DCU Daily. And today we have to talk about so many things, as we always do. We have to talk about some Superman. We have to talk about some Batman. We have to talk about maybe a little more Creature Commandos, potentially. There's more James Gunn talk about, what he thinks of Lex Luthor, because I feel like every other day he gets asked about, like, Lex Luthor, what do you think about Nicholas Hoult? And then he has some quotes, so we're going to get into that. And then, of course, we have lots of other little tidbits of DC news. So to get into that and so much more, as always with me, I've got John. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing okay. I still kind of have a little bit of heartburn, but outside of that, I'm good. I'm good. Tired because it's 1 a.m, but I'm living.
Nice. And Liz, are you excited to talk some DC?
Yes. The way things have been going, I'm always excited. But you know what? Hey, Andy, shut up. That's all I can say.
Fair enough. Well, with that, let's kind of get moving right into the story. So the first one here is a quote from James Gunn. It comes to us from Entertainment Weekly. Essentially, he was asked, like, how do you make sure that all of these projects, like, what is your philosophy with DC Studios, and is there going to be an overarching thing where everything sort of matches together very closely, or are these going to be each movie is going to be very different from the other? Just how diverse are the genres going to be? And to that, he said, the DC Studios goal is to ensure every project is going to bring a different vision by the artists who are creating it. Essentially saying that, he's going to try to take the approach of having a creative, director-driven universe.
There's room for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, this has been pretty much known for a while, though. Like, he's kind of insinuated this for years now about how, like, he wants Superman to feel different from Creature Commandos to feel different from Superman to feel different from Peacemaker to feel different from Supergirl to feel different from Lanterns. It's all different because that's what comic books are. It's not just the same things over and over again. You could tell vastly different stories about different characters and different teams and different things, and I mean, like, it's just comics are like just so insane. Like, you like literally one of the movies that's set to come out is about a giant swamp monster, like headed by the guy who's probably going to win an Oscar for something for his latest movie. So, it's just it's just insane. It's just insane.
Yeah. I mean, Liz, what are your thoughts on this? Just again, a little more tour driven, like, each project can have its own identity, but it's going to be part of a larger cinematic universe, essentially.
Well, and you know what? I'm fine with that. I know I harp on continuity a lot, but I like the idea that even if they look completely different, if their direction is completely different, there's still going to be some fun elements that kind of connect each project back to one another. I think that's kind of going to be, that's really interesting, and it'll be fun for audiences to kind of connect those dots and say, oh hey, they did this here, and it was a cartoon, but then they connected it to this live action film or TV show over here. So I'm all for it. And again, I just like John said, comics are so vast and drawn and written by so many different creatives that why not do the same thing when you're bringing it to the people and en masse like this. So I think that's going to be cool.
Yep. Caleb saying, careful, John, Tom King might be under the house. Anyway, but Man of Steel Magnolia
looking at me
was
while I sleep,
potentially hovering over you like the gray aliens, and aliens. Anyway, Man of Steel Magnolias pointed out in the chat that Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, has started filming today, and that is indeed the case. As far as we are aware, today was the first day of shooting, principal photography for Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. Of course, the lead role goes to Millie Alcock. She's playing our new Kara Zor-El. John, are you excited to see this now that this is becoming more and more tangible? What are you looking forward to the most over the next few months? Or do you think you will get some insight, looks, maybe some behind the scenes photos? I don't know how much on location filming they're going to do, although we know they're going to go to Norway and stuff, but I think they're starting to film, where they're starting out now is Leavesden Studios in London, which is mostly in the back lot, behind closed doors at sound stages. But just overall, what are you looking forward to the most? This is going to be the second movie in the DCU.
I can't imagine that we're going to be seeing a lot, but I hope we see, like, I would like to see maybe towards the end of filming, like a good suit reveal. Like, I would like to see that. I forget when we got that for Superman. I don't know if we got it right before or right after they were filming those. I don't remember exactly. I think like right before, because James Gunn wanted to get like a jump on it. So I would like to see that before. Ew, gross. I would like to see that before, because like similar thing is going to happen. I don't think the thing is there is less of a risk there because it's going to be shot entirely on green screens, the AR walls, all that shit. So I think we're gonna be, I think we're hopefully going to be getting that before we get like any like on location filming. So I hope for that. And then I just hope we get a good movie out of this. Like, I know it's the story it's based on is by the writer I don't like, but I haven't read that story, so could be the greatest fucking story of all time. Could be the fucking greatest. It can make Kingdom Come look like complete fucking shit. I don't know. I haven't read it, but Supergirl deserves her due, and I think this could be the ticket to that. And yeah, I hope so. Like, I would love to see it because, like, I feel like every live action iteration of this character has gotten kind of the shit end of the stick, with maybe the exception of the Smallville version, but even then, that's kind of pushing it. So, I just hope, Supergirl is such a really interesting character done well. So, I hope we get that with this iteration. Exactly. I can't wait for that either. Like, I hope that, like, because I think that's what James Gunn did. He got a one-up on the behind the scenes because it's like, I know people are gonna fucking take pictures. So here's the official image first, and then start filming. So I hope they do the same thing here if there is on location filming. If there isn't, then I would say reveal it only until filming is done. Period.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're gonna probably end up shooting some stuff where people will have access and they'll get photos. To address what Yash was saying earlier, though, I think the reason why we're getting a Supergirl movie right after a Superman movie is because the script was ready to go, and so James Gunn was like, "All right, let's get into production." It wasn't so much because they deliberately wanted to give us two super character movies back to back. It was just because none of the other scripts for any of the other movies were ready at the time. I mean, Clayface comes out later the same year, but I think in terms of which it will be the two bigger of the two movies, I believe that Supergirl, it makes sense to have that come out in the summer months, and then you have Clayface coming out in the fall. So, yeah, I mean, look, ultimately, it could potentially, gross almost as much as Superman does this year if it's good enough, because Superman has to bring back a lot of those dispirited DC fans, or lapsed fans who kind of left the brand because it was flailing for a while, outside of like a few hits like Joker or the Batman. But then maybe, if Superman sets the stage, then Supergirl can take advantage of it, and if it's a good movie, then it can build on top of that. So it's a possibility that maybe Supergirl makes even more money at the box office and is even more well received than Superman. But I mean, Liz, what are your thoughts on this? Are you looking forward to seeing inside looks of the character? I mean, like the suit, for example, or maybe getting to see what Jason Momoa looks like as Lobo? Maybe that'll be quite the reveal, I think.
You mean exactly like himself? I mean, none of this really interests me. I'm looking forward to seeing a trailer. I'm definitely going to see the film because I really know nothing about Supergirl in any iteration. I've only ever watched the films. I've never watched any of the TV shows other than the original black and white, which is still my favorite. So I really don't know nothing. No, don't know nothing. I really don't know anything about her character. So I'm just excited to learn something new and to be introduced to somebody.
I don't mind either, by the way. It could be more like the Superman suit where it's like the onesie that was made in the later seasons of Supergirl. But I mean, I don't know. The skirt is just so iconic that I would like to see that. Because I mean, Helen Slater's looked okay. I didn't like Melissa Benoist because she was like this cheery version of the character, but then she got this like dull and depressing Man of Steel looking suit. So I don't know what the hell was up with that. And then we had the Sasha Calle suit, which was okay. It wasn't great. It looked like a cheap version of the like Superman suit. So what? But yeah, I hope that we get like what I hope we don't get. I don't think they'll do the pantsuit either because one, the skirt is so iconic, and two, it helps differentiate between the two. Plus we're getting yeah, but I think that might be a little bit too much. But I think with the pantsuit, we're getting that in My Adventures with Superman. So if people want the pantsuit, then they could like go for that. But it's just like it's so iconic, and I would like to see something that's like very different. Like I would like to see like well, they could always change up the I mean James Gunn said that they're taking main inspiration from Superman for all seasons and All-Star Superman, yet they went with the New 52 suit. So, and with the Kingdom Come crest. So anything can happen. I just hope it looks something like that. You know what I don't hope? Fucking zoom in on her hands for a sec. Zoom in on her hands because I fucking hate the loop thing. I hate the loop around her fingers. I hate it when they do that. It looks so stupid. I hate that. Because it's like Superman doesn't have it, so in this case, I hope they don't. This is a really good image, by the way. It's very, very well drawn.
Great, yeah.
Great but they didn't do that for Superman. I just like why. It looks so dumb to me. Like, I mean,
but I think is again, you gotta
girls like it.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I don't know.
We
if
like it in our sweaters. We like it in our long sleeves. We like the look.
I don't. It looks stupid.
Yeah, but you're not a girl.
But it's not.
You're not wearing
exactly,
it.
John. It's not for you to wear. I think you're paying attention to the wrong details. I don't think it's gonna matter. This movie's not gonna fail because she's got that in her suit.
I mean, I don't like gloves, so like I would have an issue if they put her in gloves. Like I do get. What
I don't want gloves either. No.
Yeah.
Unless the only reason that worked was the animated show because they gave her like a crop top and a skirt, and so they gave her like. Since she was like had a short sleeve shirt rather than a long sleeve shirt, they gave her gloves. I'm like, okay, that kind of makes sense. But yeah, I think I mean, this looks great. I like the painted kind of look to it. Looks amazing. I think Nelly Alcock. I hope she does a good job.
Hmm.
Will they
This
give
really
Kara
kind
a
of brings
secret
to
identity?
life
I don't
the
know.
look.
I mean, you know the story, the original story, much more than I do. So I don't know if they're following it more note for note, then maybe. But I here's the thing. I think they will, because if they don't, she might be a little too Homelander for some people. Like, because like it was like I hope it's like whatever it is. I hope they really go Silver Age with this. I hope they go Linda Lee Danvers, and just like, because why would she have the same name? That doesn't make sense to me. So yeah, I don't think they're gonna cheapen it, but
This
um
might be, by the way, AI artwork. Just saying, we haven't verified that, but nonetheless,
I mean, there's
it
an
looks good.
artist symbol though. There's like an artist
Yeah,
signature.
could be. I think I came across. Anyway, go ahead. What you were saying.
I think I would hope they give her a secret identity, because that was something I missed from the Marvel movies. Like literally RDJ ad-libbing made it so that these guys didn't have secret identities. I'm like, okay, that's kind of dumb. It's just like, I don't know, it's just like the idea of like a secret identity is like, I don't know, it's just like kind of special, interesting. That's like the thing about a superhero, is they have a secret identity. I don't know. I liked that
Yeah.
idea. We don't know
It's
yet.
not for
We don't
you.
know.
It's for those you care about. That's
Yeah,
as
exactly.
Christian Bale's
Thank you.
Batman would say. Yeah.
We don't know yet. Well, the character, yeah, she's from Krypton, but in the comics, she's had two different, mainly two different backstories. In the Silver Age, it was like there was a chunk of Krypton that had like a livable dome, and it was called Argo City,
Argo
and
City.
that was kind of floating through space, and that's where
Didn't they
Supergirl
adopt
was from.
that in Krypton? Like, wasn't that a little bit, or either Krypton or Supergirl? I forget. We have
They didn't
seen
do it
that
in either. They
before.
did that in the movie Supergirl, because that's
Oh.
what was the only thing that was out at the time. But I think they're going to go with the modern version, where they were both sent out at the same time, and then she gets stuck in like stasis, or like, in New 52 she was like revolving around the sun that supercharged her cells. In the Supergirl TV series, she got stuck in the Phantom Zone. In Superman, I think her sorry, not Superman. In Smallville, I think it was like she got stuck in a mountain or something, and like something caused it to like get her like awakened or something. So whatever it is, it they she's on a chunk of Krypton. Okay, so they might, to be fair, James Gunn did say that they're gonna take okay, so that's good. They did mention, James Gunn did mention that they're gonna go for more Silver Age vibes. So I can imagine they might go with the Argo City version, but I think it's just a little bit easier and a little bit easier to grasp than to just be like, okay, they were sent at the same time. She kind of fucked off by accident. Clark Kent made it to Earth. She didn't, but then she eventually comes to Earth, and that's what happened. So I'm all for both, but I think they can make both work, but I think it's just easier for general audiences to be like, they went at the same time from Krypton, and she went off course. I think that's just easier for people. Then it's like, because then for some people it could feel like cheap, that it's like, oh, Krypton, well, this city survived, so it's not totally like gone, and so that's like,
I get that. Yeah, it's definitely.
so that
the
could
tricky
also be
part of it,
something. Again, I
yeah.
don't know what they're going to do. I, as a fan, I don't mind either. They can make both work, but I'm just
think
thinking
you
in the
can do
minds of
it-
like the people behind it and what they think general audiences will accept.
But you see, they need to do that in a way where you can kind of have it both ways. Let me explain. Like, if she gets stuck in the Phantom Zone, so she doesn't quite age the same, but that city has been floating through space for all that time. So maybe like that's become a generational spaceship almost. So the people who live there know the legacy of Krypton, but they aren't really they don't remember Krypton because the generation
Okay,
that lived on Krypton has died
so
away. And then at that point, it's like Kara kind of like you have that the Kryptonians aren't completely gone yet, and there's a piece of Krypton there still, but at the same time, it's not the Krypton that Kara remembers at all growing up. You know what I mean?
yeah, so she's isolated from two worlds. That could be interesting.
It's it would be a different kind of way to approach it, but I'm like, that's one way you can kind of have it both ways. You know what I mean? Like, I think it could
Yeah.
work well.
I don't know what they're gonna do. I like both. I don't mind either. Um, Lenny's like, Dan, you are on the money here.
Thank you, Lenny.
So
I try.
I think that could work. Okay,
Yeah.
so she explains that her parents build a ship for her to go to Earth on the chunk of Krypton, and everyone around her dies because of kryptonite poisoning or something. That's okay. So Lenny's explaining that's what's in the book, but what Dan is saying that people are still alive. So it seems like in the book that they all die. So I think it might be. I think it might hurt even more that like everyone she knows died, but like Krypton's still living, but she still feels like an outsider because she's on Earth, still feels like an outsider, but she's on Krypton and also still feels like an outsider because everyone she ever loved is fucking dead. So I think that would be a good isolate because that's what I think the main story is about. Correct me if I'm wrong, Lenny, but that's what Supergirl is. She's isolated from Earth because she's not from this world. And well, in the comics, it's like she's Krypton's dead, but now it's like Krypton's technically alive, but it's dead to her. So it's like even more isolation. I feel like that could make her develop even more as a character. And yeah, Supergirl is her own character. That was okay. Well, I haven't read it. Dan, I think you start reading it?
Yes, I have, but that my understanding was that she watched people die. I'm still sort of like early in the book, so I'm not like I
Okay.
haven't gone all the way through. But yeah, I mean, look, and here's the thing: they don't need to take everything from the book word for word. Like they could, they're adapting it, so they could change up a few things so that it lines up better with the bigger picture of the DCU, how they want to
I don't think
portray
it's
this
gonna
version
be.
of Supergirl. But Lenny's saying we're just describing the book. I mean, again,
Yeah,
like Peter
and
Safran and
that's
James
what it
Gunn
like
both talked
defines
about
her
it too.
story.
So
So it's like it does
yeah,
everything. I can
yeah.
I can see that working. And yeah, I oh Yash was saying something. Um she was like saying something, I forget what it was. Anyway,
Ron saying I actually want Supergirl in the movie to never have reached Earth and doesn't know if Kal-El survived or not. That I think is
I think that
could
might
be
be
powerful. Like
too much, but I think that could be. Yeah, because that's what's so interesting about a character, and that's what I was saying, is what I love about Supergirl is she's not just a girl Superman. Just like how in the comics, She-Hulk isn't just girl Hulk. She's her own character. Of course, fucking MCU ruined that, but that's what the main thing why a lot of people complained about the TV series is that she was just female Superman or modern millennial girl with superpowers. And it's not the worst thing ever, but it's like the character that is on the page is way more interesting than that. She's not just like, oh, she's like Clark, she's geeky, she wears glasses, she, does this thing, she's, social anxiety, all that shit. But it's likes the fleece vest. But yeah, because that's what's that's like the best parts of Supergirl's character is like the fact that she isn't Superman. She didn't live on Earth because that's what Superman sees himself as. He sees himself as human because he was raised by humans. So that's what makes him special. But what makes Supergirl so special is that she wasn't raised on Earth. She remembers Krypton. She remembers those people, and at a point like with Argo City, like she was a part of that and couldn't go back, and or Woman of Tomorrow, where she was on this city, watched everyone die, and then she goes to Earth. So like the isolations, all that stuff. So yeah, I think it's just like I want to see Supergirl done well because it's like the closest we got were Smallville and ironically the god awful Flash movie, and we're gonna get to that soon enough. But it's just like she deserves a good movie. I think James Gunn setting everything up deserve that. That could be an interesting thing. I hope so. I hope Craig Gillespie, like he's done some good movies, he's done some bad movies, but I hope he can come out on top. Anna Naguero, we can't judge anything. I personally can't judge Millie Alcock. I'm just going off what other people have said for House of the Dragon, and they say that she's really good. So I'm like, okay, I trust you. I'm not interested in the show, but what's the Friday the 13th character? What?
like that doesn't last too long. He's basically saying I look like somebody who gets killed off at the beginning of the movie. You
also,
know what? Like,
to be fair, it
I
also
think I
doesn't
get it.
help your, minority. They get killed off early on in a horror movie. I'm
Yeah,
sorry, Dan.
Yeah, you know what? We need to make better horror movies. That's what it is.
Well, I mean, Jordan Peele has the black audience. You need the brown audience, Dan. Make maybe a Bollywood horror movie and just. I know
there's
that,
plenty of those out there.
No, there are plenty of there, but get
Yeah.
a Pakistani girl to star, get Aman Vellani to star, and make it work, Dan.
I think
make
you know what? That's
I'll
probably
write the movie for you. I'll help you out.
That's the move. We're gonna get Aman Vellani to star in a horror movie, and we're gonna bring in the genre crowd.
And we're gonna bring in the brown audience, Pakistani, Middle Eastern. Everybody everybody. It's gonna be the Get Out for the brown audience.
Yeah, pretty much. And as Ron's saying, we're gonna get Shah Rukh Khan to star in it. That would be perfect.
I don't know who that is. I'm sorry.
Liz probably does.
Did I hear Shah Rukh Khan?
Yeah.
Was he in RRR? Or is he somebody else?
He was not, but he's the Tom Cruise of India. That's what he's been called.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Based.
Yeah, he's probably even more popular than Tom Cruise. Honestly,
I would say he is absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you. All the compliments today. I mean, like, I try to look my best for you.
Yeah, like I get all the compliments all the time. I'm happy Dan's getting the compliments today. Dan, you deserve all the compliments. You rock the vest. You rock the your hair is always well coiffed. The beard very nicely trimmed. Mine's like a hobo. Yours is always very nicely trimmed. I'm jealous of your beard. Mine looks like a hobo. Like it looks like all over the place. I no matter what I do, I can't trim it properly.
I will say though, like RRR is peaks. It's well done. It's very well made.
I need to watch it.
So many hero shots.
But they're so well done though. I'm like,
it's an Oscar-winning movie.
It is that is true. It is an Oscar-winning movie.
Just like Suicide Squad, right, Caleb?
Fight.
Anyway,
Lenny's like, of course, Bollywood actors are more popular than Tom Cruise. And then TC24 is like, Dan, you're a bum. But then he's got his
fuck you,
Pinocchio.
TC. I'm gonna
but hold on. But then he's got his Pinocchio emoji coming out. So I'm like, all right, TC, I hear you. I got it.
I didn't see that part.
I don't know, by the way, that question from Lenny earlier, will they use the Kryptonian language in this universe? Look, honestly, if they do, kudos to them because they wouldn't shy away for something that
awesome.
Could potentially be unpopular with the audience. But honestly, at a time where we're more accepting of foreign cultures and languages, where we're more okay with like reading subtitles, or just and listening to it in the original language, because a lot of times the dubbed, if you hear something that has been dubbed into the language you can understand, you sometimes lose the essence of the original actor's intent or just the authenticity with which they acted out that particular scene. So why not do that? I mean, here Krypton was an entirely different planet on a whole different part of the galaxy or universe.
I think that they might bring that into Superman, because that was the original summary that James Gunn gave, where he was like, he's gonna like become truly a man of two worlds. Now he's gonna be into his Kryptonian heritage more. So yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And to answer your question, Jose, I doesn't come with jorts. I will, ring up John Cena to ask if he still has a pair lying around though. But I don't particularly.
I have my cargo shorts. I don't know if that counts.
Yeah, it's Yash is saying, look, RRR is such an over-the-top nonsense. In India, people were laughing, thinking why Hollywood was so enamored with an Indian Robert Rodriguez nonsense DVD.
It's enjoyable.
That's not true.
Matters.
That's
it's
not true.
enjoyable.
I mean, okay, you can have that opinion. That's fine. I grew up watching Bollywood and Indian movies my entire life. I appreciate the execution of that film, and the plot is simple, but I did enjoy RRR. Like I think. It's like it's watching like a soap opera times a theatrical play on the big scale, like big budget movie, which honestly it looks a lot more expensive than it was, which was one of the most impressive things from a filmmaking standpoint.
Caleb is saying RRR is better than the Godfather trilogy.
I think now you're getting carried away, my friend.
But also, Ron, Shah Rukh Khan would never come to the MCU or DC. They could never afford him.
I was just gonna say they probably can't afford him.
They could never afford him.
He's already Raw 1. He's already got he already plays a superhero in his own movie that he made. Not a very good one, but anyway. let's keep the ball rolling here, shall we? So more James Gunn stuff. Of course, anytime James Gunn says something, we do have to address it. So he was recently asked about, what was it like working with Nicholas Hoult? And he was like,
Delightful.
when we were on set and Nick walked in there, he's every ounce of the big time movie star you can imagine. And the women were swooning over Lex Luthor. And I'm like, oh, everybody loves a bad boy. I mean,
Say
it's
good
almost
night to the bad guy.
It's almost as if James Cameron didn't talk like this about Leonardo DiCaprio when he came into audition for Titanic. James Gunn is really hyping up, Nicholas Hoult. And Nicholas Hoult, I wouldn't consider an A-lister per se, but he's certainly probably a lot more well known. Yeah, I mean, he's more well known than most of the actors on this movie. So, or in this movie. I mean, Liz, what do you think about this? Like, does everybody love a bad boy?
Play that GIF from the other day. My God, I see what he's saying. I'm not attracted to Nick like that, but in that one little, when he has some swag for sure. He's feeling himself in this character.
Yeah,
so.
it's like, damn, how the hell did Ellen cheat on him with mustache, pale vampire man? Like, come on, like it's right there.
He did look very good in Nosferatu as well.
He did. He looked smexy. Yeah. Like, he's got the adorable kind of vibe, but he's also like kind of has like the, walking into the room with swag vibe, as you said.
Well, it's almost then Aaron Taylor Johnson walked in and was like, oh, never mind.
I'm like, this
everyone's craven, so
this movie has the potential to essentially capture the essence of Lex Luthor and do some of the hokiness of the comics and yet make him look menacing. Because this shot, of course, makes him look a little more like comic booky, but then there's that shot where he is piping hot, like, and I'm not saying literally. Yes. I'm saying like he is incredibly angry about something. He's got some scarring on his face. And
Lenny,
so I'm like, you get the different
always
sides
makes
of
the
it.
chat
Chicks
horny
scars, man. Chicks dig
scars. Here, so don't even go there. We love you for it, but like, goddamn.
Yeah.
Hot meat kettle.
Yep. Caleb is saying, is John craven for greatness?
I'm always craven for greatness. It's just greatness ain't craving me. So, I live with what I got.
And Ron is throwing some spoilers at us. So those of you who haven't seen Nosferatu, look away. But like, why?
Those also are incorrect.
Why?
Anyway.
I don't think that happens in the movie.
Also not actually
not true. That's an inaccurate spoiler.
That's not what happens, and that's not how you spell Willem Dafoe. I have a friend of mine. She always says William Dafoe.
William,
and always. That's technically his name. He's like, my birth name is William, but my dad was William, so that was weird. He's like, I didn't want to go by Will or Billy, but they're like Willem, and I'm like, oh, he's like, okay, I like that.
It's okay. So. Ron apologized.
Right, we've been pronouncing Denzel Washington's name wrong this whole time too. So there you go.
Really?
What?
Yeah.
Was it Denzel Washington? Like,
no, it's Denzel. His name is Denzel.
And Brendan Fraser is Fraser,
right.
Not Frazier.
Not Frazier.
And right. I'm pretty sure I've been pronouncing Chiwetel Ejiofor's name wrong this whole time, but I'm sorry. I just can't like it. I'm sure he pronounced it correctly. I forgot it.
Yeah, fair enough. Man of Steel Magnolia is saying, I have Willem Daphobia. He scares me. Wow, good one. Good one. All the wordplay in the chat
He's
today.
Willem Defriend, not Willem Dafoe.
I love Willem Dafoe anytime he pops up anywhere, including in the first John Wick movie.
If he's not scaring you, he's not doing his job.
Yeah.
American pronunciation is weird. Coming from the country where nobody can understand what you're saying.
We now have to talk about Superman Reborn, a movie that never quite made it to the theater screens, but nonetheless, the script does exist. It was meant to be the 5th Superman movie, under the Christopher Reeve era, so he would have starred in it. And this is before even Warner Brothers owned the rights to the Superman franchise completely. Mm-hmm. They were only the distributors. They didn't actually. It was kind of like the Broccoli's own James Bond, but then like Amazon, MGM would distribute the movies and have partial rights. It was kind of a not exactly the same, but a similar arrangement with Superman. Like believe it or not, at the time Warner Brothers didn't actually own all of DC. So with that said, John, Superman Reborn just had a script reading. The unmade movie, but I mean, for the first time we get to hear the script, we really get a sense of what it's about.
Right.
You had a chance to kind of go and watch the whole thing. So
yeah, I watched it.
What did you think
over the course of the weekend? Yeah.
Yeah.
I got an early link, And so, yeah, I wanted to give it a watch. So, as you said, this was going to be the fifth film. It was there was kind of like rustling words because like the Salkinds own the rights for the most part, but I think they gave the rights to Canon, and that's what we got for Superman 4: The Quest for Peace, which was really bad. And they before that came out, before that bombed, and before they went bankrupt, the Canon was planning a fifth film, and I think that's kind of what this grew into be. So they were calling. I've heard a lot of different names for what the Canon movie was going to be. Like it was just going to be Superman 5. It was going to be Superman 5. No, but we'll get to that soon. Superman 5 Reborn, Superman the new movie. There was a whole bunch of stuff, but late 80s came along. Canon went bankrupt. Salkinds got the rights back, and they wanted to do another movie with Christopher Reeve, and this was like early 90s at this point. And so they got two writers, Ilya Salkind did, and he made the story with these two writers. He made you got Cary Bates and Mark Jones. Cary Bates is a comic book writer. He's written a lot for DC. And Mark Jones, well, the both of them did, but Mark Jones also wrote for the Superboy series, which was produced by the Salkinds at the time, which was not, I don't think that was connected to the continuity for the Superman Christopher Reeve movies. But so they were kind of chatting about this, and they made this script. And right around this time, WB was, they're like, hey, we want the rights back. We want all the rights. We want to do our own thing. And they're like, okay, so, well, Cary Bates and Mark Jones, WB was like, here, fucking rewrite this script, while they were discussing with Alexander Salkind, Ilya Salkind's father, about, doing their own movie, and Alexander eventually sold the rights to them. So then they went off and did their own Superman Reborn, which would have been a complete reboot. Christopher Reeve was not involved. And the initial draft was written by, their version was written by Jonathan Lemkin, which was really bad, apparently. And then Gregory Poirier came in for rewrites. That was also really bad. And then Kevin Smith came in to do rewrites. He saw the script. He's like, this shit's unfucking rewritable. This shit's garbage. So he came in and pitched his own version to John Peters, who WB got to do this movie, to produce the movie, because he did such a good job with Batman. And Kevin Smith was like, here's my version. And they're like, okay. And that became Superman Lives. So this movie, Superman 5 Reborn, which is what I'm calling it, because that's what the intention was, I believe, at this point in production. This was like the first puzzle piece on what would become Superman Lives and that canceled movie. So this was the first puzzle piece. At this point, this was the first draft by Cary Bates and Mark Jones, and they essentially wanted to make something a little bit darker, something a little bit more unlike what was, going on with the movies at the time. And apparently, according to Ilya Salkind, Christopher Reeve was on board. He was the only person on board that he claimed that he read the script, he liked it, he wanted to do it. So, as according to this, as you can see on the screen, there was a third draft that was leaked. This is not that draft. This is the first draft, the one they were proud of the most.
Yeah.
And it involves, and this, by the way, this was drafted in 1992. Like the first draft was 92. It might have been 91, 92. I don't remember. But it involves the death of Superman before the comic book story came out. So this was actually the precursor to that. Now, maybe WB ripped it off. Maybe they didn't. Who knows? But Cary Bates and Mark Jones did Death of Superman before the comic book did. So, that's an interesting little tidbit. So what this movie is about, Brainiac comes to Earth and he sees, Superman's the champion of Earth. So he kills him, and then he gets reborn in the bottled Kryptonian city of Kandor. And then he has to come out of hiding and fight Brainiac. So overall, I think it was an overall okay script. I can't imagine, it's very 90s with how it portrays Brainiac. Because yes, thank you very much.
Thank you for the super chat, silhouetted animator. Yeah, according to Chrysler of Infinite Earths Absolute Edition, the Superboy show is set in the comic multiverse.
Because it was
That's
1988 was the when it
98.
began, but yeah. But overall, it's very 90s with Brainiac because it's a overall decent interpretation of Brainiac. It's just the way they do about certain things with the character is very weird. Like, as we know with the character of Brainiac, he wants knowledge. Like, that's the whole thing. He wants that's essentially what the basis of he wants knowledge. He wants all the knowledge in the universe. That's why he destroys the planet so that the knowledge is rarer. He gets this little bit, he bottles his city, and then kills the planet so he can have the most knowledge, but the only knowledge of this like planet, this history, this lore. So that's the basis of the character, and that's here. It's here. Like, they have the bottled cities, all that stuff. But then there's also like this subplot of him like wanting to be more human, and it's very weird. Like, he wants to like essentially bone Lois Lane, which is super weird. And
you mean, wait, Brainiac? I'm sorry, what?
Brainiac, because I think like he develops like a human body throughout the story. I don't want to spoil too much if you want to go ahead and watch it.
You can listen to it. It's like 3 hours long, so you like
it's
3
hours
some
long.
Time, grab a drink, a snack,
Yeah, the main thing is about 2 hours 40 minutes. The last 20 minutes is like a Q&A, which is where I got some of the information from. I didn't finish all of it. I have about like 10 minutes left, but yeah, I would say I'm gonna put it in the chat now. So if you want to click on it, go click on it. You can like open it in a new tab and whatever. But yeah, it's still like good. It's just like that's a very weird subplot. I like how they do some weirder adult things, like when Superman is reawakened in Kandor. Like the person that finds him is a hooker, and she like goes topless in front of him, and it's very weird. And like there's use of like swear words, like there's shit. Like I think they throw a fuck in there at one point.
That's rated R then. And well, I guess you can get away with one.
Well, you can get away with a PG-13 at that point, but
yeah.
Yes, they wanted, if they could, they also wanted to use Darkseid at one point.
Yeah.
But I mean, Superman is characterized very well. The guy who plays him, obviously in the Superman shirt, he does a very good job. He sounds like very Superman, and it's written very Superman like you can imagine Christopher Reeve. Like I can, like when I close my eyes, I'm like I can imagine him like in like an animated form, almost like him saying these words. Lois Lane is characterized very well. Perry White, great. Jimmy Olsen is in this. They're all the usual suspects are all in this. Brainiac, although another weird thing is that he has like a sidekick that's Cosmo, which is like kind of weird. There's a twist with him later on, but and again, I'm not going to reveal too much if you guys want to watch it. But a weird thing that they brought up, Ma Kent is alive, even though she died in Superman 3. So I don't know if this was like an alternate sequel, because they call it Superman Reborn, not Superman 5 Reborn. That's just what I'm calling it, because it helps discern which version is which, because there's like 3 different Superman Reborns. So I'm like, okay, it helps differentiate for me. But so it's entirely possible that this was going to be, much like Superman Returns kind of was, an alternate sequel to Superman 2. They're like, okay, get rid of the last 2 and just do this one. I don't know if that was the case, but Ma Kent is alive, and so that was an interesting tidbit. But yeah, there's a lot of really great action set pieces. I can imagine it's very effects heavy, obviously, with Brainiac. Like they have a lot of really interesting tidbits here and there. David Kocher is the guy who did all this. Again, there's a QR code in the beginning to showcase like all of the proceeds for this was going to go to the Christopher Reeve and Dana Reeve Foundation. So I would like to see this like adapted in animated form as sort of like a encapsulation of like sort of like what they intended this to be, like closure for the Christopher Reeve era. But Lois Lane was great, like, and their chemistry is really good. Like, there's like the whole thing with them, like, kind of butting heads of their relationship. They were together, but Lois Lane wasn't totally in it, and it was like, it's a little messed up. It's a little weird. There's also something else that happens later on that I won't spoil, but it's very weird. Let's just say they pull a Austin Powers 2 with that. But it's just an overall, it's an interesting case because it's like, it's
Groovy,
very
baby.
like,
Sorry.
it's adapted very well from the comics. It just has that like comic booky weirdness that like the 70s, 80s, and 90s had, where like before all the super nerds came in on social media, like dissecting a movie of like, you didn't do this right, you didn't do this right. There was an easier flow to everything. So I can feel that this was a very 90s kind of thing, even though it was very early 90s. But yeah, overall, I thought it was pretty good. Not the greatest thing ever. It's just like, if you have like a couple hours to, waste, then I would say watch it. It's interesting. Or you could even just listen to it. Like if you're like driving somewhere, or you're like, I don't know, taking a shower or whatever, like exercising, you could just listen to it. I can't, because I can't like multitask properly, but I would say give it a watch. The link is in the chat. I'll try to link it later on after this, after we're done. But yeah, overall, I thought it was a interesting little tidbit. I don't know if it's going to be everybody's cup of tea, but I was intrigued and I liked what I heard. So, it's definitely better than, yes, I fully agree on that. But I will say
I
it's
think
better
audio
than,
dramas are an underutilized thing right now.
I mean, I will say it's better than the Superman Reborn that Lemkin and Poirier wrote, because in those movies, Lois Lane has a virgin birth when Superman dies, gives birth to a new Superman who becomes a man in like 3 days and defeats Brainiac. So it's better than that. So that's that's not this movie. That's the shit that comes out like later on. So like, don't worry, like it's not that, but that's the shit we could have gotten, but we didn't get. So thank God. But this was good. This was not the greatest thing ever, like a solid 6.5, maybe 7 out of 10. But yeah, good table read, good, interesting idea. I'd like to see this like in animated form, because I mean, they did the same thing for Adam West, even though Christopher Reeve is no longer with us. But it would be an interesting idea to bring that to like a proper forefront, I think. But overall, good.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it's just great to see that again they're willing to kind of carry the torch forward with the project that, yeah, I mean, in a world like today where IP is everything, you could make it an anime or just animate it in general. Chuck Roth saying, sounds weird, Brainiac wanted to get jiggy with it with Lois, LOL. I mean, fair enough. I think we all probably found that a little, weird.
But they actually they even said, Ilya Salkind and Mark Jones at the end were like, yeah, we wanted this to lead into even more movies if, the Salkinds kept the rights, and if Christopher Reeve didn't have his accident. They're like, we would have done a Superman 6, 7, or even 8 if they were still lucrative. I don't know if Christopher Reeve would have gone with those, but they're like, if it was lucrative enough and people still wanted to see them, then we would have gone with more. And that's definitely an interesting kind of like, wow, damn, 8 Superman movies. That's crazy.
I mean, yeah, and maybe there's an alternate, reality where that happened. Silhouetted Animator with another super chat. Thank you again, saying James Gunn should do animated movies or tie-in comics set in other continuities with labels like DCU Earth Prime, DCU Earth 22 to differentiate it from his DCU, which would be considered Earth 1. I think that's a fantastic idea because honestly, with the last few DC movies, they did do some tie-in little comics, but nothing, that committed too much to the idea. I would love to see more of that. I think that's a great idea, Silhouetted Animator. I think that would be.
I think that could be
a great way to promote again the genre of comics. And yeah, I mean, we got Lenny in the chat again with an amazing super chat. You guys are being very generous today. Thank you so much, and we really appreciate that you guys are here joining us and
thank you.
Supporting it on at that level. That is just fantastic because we hope that we have earned that from you.
But again, don't be like spending your rent money. Just like if you can drop like $1, even if you can't, Like your support is enough. Like we'll take that. Like you don't have to if you can't like pay your rent, pay your bills. Like that's the most important thing.
Yes. But yeah, we absolutely do appreciate that. And yeah, I mean, tie-in comics is a good idea. I think we should get more of those because it encourages, again, for those of us who are fans of the genre, even if you're an average moviegoer, it encourages you to, again, pick up a comic book.
Crisis on Infinite Earths, they gave us comics. It was cool.
I mean, and if you pick up one comic, then maybe you'll get interested and pick up another. And then, then from there on,
then you're just
all
buying
of a sudden
trades.
You're reading. Yeah, you're getting trade backs. But yeah, look, let us know in the chat. I mean, Superman Reborn, it's a movie that, never quite got made. Of course, Christopher Reeve is no longer with us, but the story is there. The script is around the Christopher Reeve and Dana Reeve Foundation, I believe, right? Like that's the name of the foundation that sponsored this. And the whole event is on Google, like on YouTube rather.
Yep,
and,
I put it
John,
in the chat.
I'll put it in the chat. So
I'll put it in the description.
I mean, see how far you get with it. It's 3
Yeah.
hours long. You may need multiple sittings. You may not. You may be like, all right, this is not for me. But
yeah, like if you want to do it, it's just like it's a smaller
Yes.
like DC project, and I felt that it was kind of apropos that like Supergirl starts filming today, but also this other thing involving Superman came out today. So I'm like, okay, that's kind of a cool thing, and it's a smaller project. It's almost an indie thing, so it's like, might as well spotlight that sort of thing, and for a big audience, and then so. Caleb, goddammit.
Caleb's sarcasm is just next level.
Oh
sometimes.
yeah. But yeah, it's just like it's a nice support. Like even if you don't want to watch the whole thing, but like leave it on like mute and then go do something else. Give them support. Like that's what I'm all for. Like supporting really small channels and projects like this, because then more and more love we can get. Like more table readings of other scripts and stuff like that. I think think it's cool.
Yeah, I mean, by the way, Lenny's saying Riddler Year One. She read that; it was pretty good. Yeah, I mean, tie-in comics like that are fantastic. It gives you a way to expand the horizons of the story that you might already be interested in, and then you kind of, if you want to hear more about it, that's one easy way for you kind of dive in a little bit deeper. So with that in mind, John, let's dive in a little bit deeper into what Andy Muschietti has been talking about recently. It looks like, according to a new report, Andy Muschietti and James Gunn are still collaborating. They're still talking about this Batman Brave and the Bold movie. So it's still in the works. It's just taking a little bit longer. Obviously, it looks like the script is still not complete. But according to DC Film News, even though they haven't met, and when I say they, I mean Andy Muschietti and James Gunn, even though they haven't met face to face since filming Superman, or since the start of filming on Superman began, which I believe was February of last year, and it finished, of course, was it like July or not? Was it July, September? Like basically fall months of last year, Superman finished filming. So it's been pretty much at this point almost a year since they spoke. Even though they haven't spoken in that time, according to a source close to the parties that DC Film News proclaims, they confirmed that Andy and Gunn speak regularly. Like, they communicate somehow. I don't know if that means they didn't speak in person, but they communicate somehow. Maybe they're sending each other text messages. And even though Batman Brave and the Bold is still in development, the script isn't quite where James Gunn wants it to be, it will still be separate from the Matt Reeves Batman. Like, this is going to be a DCU Batman. But the bigger story here is that Andy Muschietti is talking to James Gunn, even though he said that he hasn't spoken to him in a year. Which, I mean, was it taken out of context, do you think? Do you think?
I mean, it also doesn't help that this is a director
this
whose first language is not English. So, that fair. Also doesn't help matters. And also, like, Andy, I'm going to say this. Right now. You have one good movie under your belt. Please stop talking. Please, in the words of that Mr. Incredible meme, shut the fuck up. Please shut the fuck up. Okay? Because I think I can speak for a lot of people that they want to see your ass booted, because you got it. You have it. Mama was mid. It Chapter 2 was hated. The Flash sucked. And by the way, we're going to get to that soon enough, because I have a lot to fucking say about that. So just stop talking, because I think every fan's wish right now is to see you booted from this fucking movie, because nobody wants. I don't know why James Gunn is sucking your dick this fucking badly, considering the fact you not only ruined one but two Batmen in your Flash movie, by the way. So why? I don't know. Maybe Andy Muschietti just gives really fucking good head. I'm willing to bet that that's the only thing because I can't fucking see why James. But again, James Gunn also fucking is sucking Tom King's dick for some reason, and I can't figure that out either. So, Andy Muschietti, please just stop talking while you have a job. But like at the end of the day, we don't want you to have a job because you're not treating this seriously. It's like, bro, do you realize how many fucking people would pillage, murder, and sacrifice to be in your fucking spot right now? I would actually murder children to fucking direct a Batman movie, and you're not treating this fucking seriously. So can you please, for the love of God, actually fucking treat this seriously? Please. And also, stop blaming fans on why your movie sucked. Maybe you just made a bad movie. I know that's really hard to believe. It sucks to admit, but sometimes you just made a bad movie. And you made a bad movie. So stop. Please just stop talking. And James Gunn, please boot this guy so we don't have to keep hearing him talk. Please. I'm just the only reason I'm not screaming right now is because my parents are asleep and I can't scream. It's almost 2 a.m. and I can't scream. That's the only thing that is stopping me right now.
I mean, Liz, I have to ask you this question. Do you think it's an exaggeration that Andy Muschietti and James Gunn haven't spoken in a year, that, he's on the edge of just like leaving the movie? Because quite frankly, Andy Muschietti, we already know he wants to do this sci-fi movie that he talked about in that same interview where this is coming from. He also mentioned that there's like another PlayStation video game franchise, he's still Shadow of the Colossus, that he wants to turn into a movie. He then mentioned in a previous interview to that saying that, I might work on another movie before I get on Batman because there's a bit of a delay there because we know the script isn't ready yet. But when you take all of that and then you look at this report, do you believe that James Gunn and Andy Muschietti have been in touch regularly? Like, is it just a matter of like, James Gunn probably got a text message from Andy like, is that script ready? And James is like, nah, it's not ready yet. Is that the definition of their like the amount of contact they've had, or do you think they're actually collaborating?
That's all the contact that they need. James is a little busy right now. He's got this little studio film called Superman coming out in 6 months. He just wrapped up Creature Commandos. He has some other things going on. He doesn't need to be checking in with little Andy every day. How are you? How are things? Who fucking cares? I don't give a shit. The fact that they haven't seen each other in person in over a year, irrelevant. They're both doing things. They're busy. I'm so sick and tired of this man, and I don't even know who the fuck he is. Yes, okay, he did it. Great. Maybe focus on that TV show and shut the fuck up right now. But we're not done with his stupid bull crap, so I'm going to leave it there at the moment. But yeah, I agree with John. I don't understand why James isn't telling him to take a walk, but whatever.
I just don't get it. Like, out of all the people to carry over director-wise, why this guy? Like, it's like, and I was saying this, like, out of all the things to give this guy, it's like, okay, The Flash sucked. Maybe it wasn't his fault. Fine, give him a movie to give him a second chance. Why give him Batman when the Batman sucked in his movie? Give him the Authority. Give him Swamp Thing. It would make sense with Swamp Thing. He's a horror guy. So, like, why not give him one of the lesser ones? It's like, oh, if it's ruined, then okay, fine. This is your most bankable fucking hero. If Superman fails, this is your next stop to fucking make money because Batman always fucking makes money. So why the fuck would you give it to the guy that directed the biggest bomb for DC in 2023? That makes no fucking sense. Unless Andy Muschietti busted the door down, had a script in hand from either him or God knows who else, and fucking smashed it on James Gunn's head, and he's like, here, and it was the greatest fucking thing he's ever read. I can't comprehend.
No, but the script isn't ready yet, so there's still.
I don't know. I'm just like trying to figure the fuck out why this fucking dude has this job. Matt Reeves is fucking breaking his body to make the most perfect script imaginable, and is getting death threats because assholes are impatient. Yeah,
and he's keeping his mouth shut about it.
And maybe he is. He said he was going through a tough time, so it's like He's going through a tough time, trying to create the greatest fucking Batman script imaginable, keeping his mouth shut for the most part, and is just like trying to do the greatest thing ever. And then on the other side of the coin, you have this doofus who fucking is like, I might do another project. We haven't spoken, but we have spoken. We've gotten a script. We haven't gotten a script. It's like, why are you here? Why are you here? Same with James Mangold. Fuck you, James Mangold. Why the fuck are you here? We haven't heard anything from him. fuck both of you. Okay, don't fucking compare me to Alex Jones. I actually have like a functioning brain cell left. So,
that's not right. That's not right at all.
I mean, JB saying Andy Spaghetti must be really, really well connected in Hollywood, right? Is he old money? No, I don't know. I don't think that's the case.
He's Argentinian. What money does he have in the U.S.?
Well, no, okay. Let's not be racist about this. Or
I'm not being racist. I'm just
saying. He's just saying he can't be old Hollywood.
He can't be old Hollywood because he hasn't
what you mean.
Been in Hollywood.
I see what you mean.
Okay,
yes, he did you mom.
Don't fucking cancel me on the fucking air right now for nothing.
How much had Andy got? Chapter 2 is so bad. Figure drawing. Yeah, well, I mean, it is a franchise that obviously Andy is a big part of. He's continuing to work on that. He's already directed, or I don't know if he show ran or if he just produced.
He should be working. That's what he should be focusing on. He should shut his mouth.
He's got 2 more seasons planned for that.
I don't know if he's right. I know he's an executive producer. I think he directed a couple episodes and maybe wrote a couple episodes. I'm not totally sure.
Well, I think when you compare it to Matt Reeves, they're 2 different things, right? Because in one case,
Matt Reeves has directed more than one good movie.
But I know, but like I'm saying, Matt Reeves is writing and directing, so he's got a little more control over it. But still, James Gunn has the final say. And he hasn't gotten it that far. With Andy Muschietti, we know someone's writing the script. It's not Andy, it's not James, but James Gunn has the final say on this. And in fact, James Gunn is going to greenlight the script before Andy Muschietti can come in and direct it. And Andy Muschietti didn't write the script for The Flash either, so he's not really somebody who necessarily writes a lot of his own movies. He's more of like he comes in as a director, takes a script that's already been written and approved and greenlit, and then he works on that. With that said, though, speaking of The Flash, he recently said something that I found to be a little confounding, and I know we've been waiting to talk about this all show long. So the headline reads, The Flash director Andy Muschietti says the film flopped because it wasn't a movie that appealed to 4 quadrants. It failed at that, he said. Now, let me point this out really quickly, Andy. So, look, we know very well that the Flash TV show, for example, did pretty good amongst all the key demographics that you're addressing.
Yep.
The Flash, I will say, was a decent movie. I enjoyed some of the humor in it. I had fun with it. But by all means, you cannot just look at that movie and say it was the fault of Warner Brothers not understanding the audience. That is a little tone deaf. We always hear, like, every once in a while, some really, some really good or some, mediocre or whatever director out there has some stupid thing to say about something, about other movies, or, something that they worked on, where it makes them seem very tone deaf and clearly not aware of the context of what they're talking about. Because in this situation, Andy, you're making yourself look a little dumb by saying that it was the reason why it failed was because it wasn't a 4 quadrant movie, that it didn't appeal to everybody that it should have appealed to.
And what the fuck are the 4 quadrants? Because later on in the article, he says women make up 2 of the 4 quadrants, which I also don't understand.
No, it's women over 25, I think, or over 35, and then women under 35, and then it's the same thing with men. So, but having said that, look, I'll give you guys like 3 simple reasons why, The Flash struggled in the box office. 1, because James Gunn had already announced the DCU, so these were like a dead-end movies. 2, Ezra Miller had a lot of problems which he's still dealing with, and that had an incredibly negative effect to the point that he showed up to the red carpet, but he was like basically told to keep your mouth shut, smile for the photos, and if you get asked maybe one question, okay, great. Like he had minimal presence on the promotional tour. It was to the point where when they were making the trailers, they had to put Michael Keaton up front and center, and there were rumors they might even rename the movie to like Batman and the Flash or something. And then number 3,
and why was that?
I mean, the problem with this movie, Ezra Miller, but number 3.
That's why you didn't get women there, because they were creeped out. And the fact that, listen, when.
In fact, nobody liked his Flash.
when you catch a court case, when you've got the police knocking on your door looking for you, Marvel fires their actors when they have things like this come up. And the fact that DC was like, no, we're going to stand by our man. We're going to keep going with this guy. You wonder why you didn't get audiences to the theater? We know why. We know why.
We know
Get
why,
out of
because
here.
this dude's a fucking creepazoid. So you have your star is a douchebag and a kidnapper and possibly a pedophile. I don't know if that was whatever. Many crimes. So you had that. Second, the rampant production issues where you went through like 5 different directors throughout the course.
I was gonna
of this
say that's the
production.
third reason. This movie, like they announced this movie before.
This movie gives me the 13th fucking reason. Like Jesus Christ.
But hold on, I'm just saying, like this movie, this Flash movie that Andy Muschietti ultimately directed. Again, this part is not his fault, but it was still a problem because it was part of a failing DCEU. But this movie was announced before the Flash TV show premiered, and the Flash TV show finished off its 10 season. Was it 10 or 8? Like basically like its decade long
9 seasons ran for 10.
It ran for it basically the movie was announced before the show premiered, and the movie came out after the show's finale aired, like 9 years later. So and you know, the DCEU was ending. The movie was not gonna make. You know, it was already coming out like after a bunch of flops. The Ezra Miller, the lead of the movie, you couldn't even advertise because it was almost a detraction. You know, it was a detraction.
You had to get fucking Tom Cruise in here to say it was the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Oh yeah, they sent the dude with the actual hard drive with the movie on it to his house. Anyway, there are a million different reasons. And thank you, Obi Dean, saying 9 seasons of The Flash. But again, John, you were saying it's just there's a million different reasons, and ultimately it wasn't like the greatest thing since sliced bread either. So I'm like, the movie wasn't exactly the best thing that I've ever seen.
Wasn't.
I had fun with it.
At the very most, they're like,
if anybody liked it. I didn't hate it, but it already had a black cloud over it before I even entered my movie theater. And Ezra Miller gives me the ick. And they also, and again, I understand the character of the Flash, but they wrote him as if they were trying to recreate Deadpool for DC. They were trying to make him the next Ryan Reynolds. So the writing fell flat for me. The CGI, somebody's mentioned the CGI was absolutely atrocious. There are so many things like that compounded the film on its one. Yes, the film itself had all kinds of problems.
And on top of the fact,
aside from that, outside of the film, it had all kinds of problems too. So it's just, that's why it didn't appeal to audiences, Andy, not because you made a fucking masterpiece that just fell flat. No, babe, like, give me a break.
Exactly, Lenny, exactly. It's just like, because Ezra Miller gave everyone the ick, not just women. He gave me the ick. And like, it's just a bad, like, I genuinely believe it's the worst DCEU movie, and that's saying something.
It sure is.
And it's like, and the fact, like, it was DOA when they said Flashpoint was the inspiration, because why the fuck are you making Flashpoint the first Flash movie? And the Flash was always a character. Wally West was like considered one. Well, Ron, I think, liked it, and Hosea, I think, liked it, which is fine. If you guys like it, that's fine. But like,
I mean, I overall thought it was a good movie. I actually laughed at the George Clooney
was the
dumbest
thing ever.
I had so much fun with it, though. I was like,
hilarious.
yes. It
was hilarious. It was so fucking stupid, but I'm like, you know what? This whole movie is stupid, so it's fine.
I don't think anybody thought it was gonna be a great. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
But here's the thing.
But again, Andy is clearly missing the whole.
He's missing the point, because he's like, oh, the Flash isn't this like top tier character. What the fuck are you smoking?
Seriously.
Like, West was beloved for years, and motherfucker, as we keep saying, he had a 9-season, 10-year run, no pun intended, show. Fucking
that I heard nothing but good things about.
Is fucking beloved, even though that show, those last like 5 seasons were dog shit. People adore Grant Gustin as the Flash. They fucking adore that. Like, to this day, like, I think Grant Gustin just said today, like, if James Gunn calls me to be the Flash, I'm saying yes. And I think, and everyone in that, Facebook comment sections are like an apocalyptic nightmare vision. But like, everyone in that chat was like,
A lot of good reasons there. Bats. I think the CGI looked unfinished.
Gimme. I want Grant
the
Gustin as the
CGI
Flash.
was criminal.
It was criminal. And that was another thing. Oh yeah, it's supposed to be bad. What the fuck do you mean it's supposed to be bad? What the fuck? Can this guy like get his like weed taken away? Because he's clearly smoking a bad batch. Because goddamn, it's just like everything out of this dude's mouth makes me want to fucking punch him in the face. Like,
and
I'm
also,
not actually
by all means, just blame women for your shit.
Yeah, just like, because that worked so well for Bryan Singer when he blamed women for Superman Returns' lack of profit. Dick, like, all right, are you a pedophile too? Maybe, who knows? But like, it's just like I'm just so sick of directors not being just like stopping and being like, you know what? Sorry, I made a bad movie.
Yeah,
I made a bad movie. It sucked. Warner Brothers, they didn't help matters either because they fucking had their fucking fingers in the potato salad. And it was like, exactly. I love that. Perfect analogy. So it's just like, we could talk about this all fucking day on why this movie failed. Like literally all 4 of the movies in 2023 that DC released were bombs. I don't think Shazam or Blue Beetle deserved it, but that's just me. But
by the way, the spaghetti scene was nice. I think against few redeeming moments. I enjoyed Michael.
Like it's as I said, I would give it like a solid like 3.5, maybe a 3. It has some good aspects in it, but like just so much like young Barry. Don't get me started on young Barry. I still fear his fucking laugh in my nightmares. So it's like Ezra Miller, like you made a bad movie. WB being morons. Like now you're blaming women. Now you're blaming this. Now you're blaming that. You're blaming everybody but yourself. And it's just like, oh, we're blaming the fans. That's always a great thing to do is blame your fans.
Right.
Now nobody's going to fucking see your Batman movie because like, oh, this guy blamed me for his failure. So fuck you. I'm not going to go see his fucking Batman movie. So it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Stop blaming everybody but yourself. Blame yourself. I know it's hard. I can imagine. Very different. But in college, when I was making my short film, I had to like look at this piece of shit that I fucking made and realized, yeah, this fucking sucked. It's exactly like I was like, I think when I first reviewed it, I gave it like a 4, but now I give it like a 3, maybe a 2.5, honestly. But yeah, it's just like sometimes it hurts because many directors view their movies as their children. That's what Steven Spielberg has said. Like, they're my children. Like, and it hurts to be like, yeah, this child didn't come out right and it sucked. It's hard. It's fucking so hard to say because we want to make, because like we created something and it didn't turn out right, and it's sad. It is sad. I feel for him, but like at the same time, you're acting like a moron and you're blaming everybody but yourself. Now, here's the only thing. Here's the only other party you can blame in it working is WB. WB is run by morons. It's fine. You can blame them. But
I think now they're in a better direction than they were before.
Hopefully. I don't fully trust Zaslav, but that's beside the point. But it's just like I'm so like, stop talking. Shut the fuck up, please. Shut the fuck up.
If you like John's brand, hit that like button. We do appreciate it.
Yeah, it's not Jurassic League levels, but you know, I try.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things wrong with that movie. I think the VFX again. This, and to me, the biggest thing about this, what we were just talking about, John, what you pointed out. I mean, look, part of this quote sounds dumb because it maybe it's part of a bigger interview. So, like, I mean, Andy's just trying to like explain, in his opinion, one of the reasons. I just hope he doesn't think that this is the only reason why, because you have to again be able to admit to your own mistakes.
He doesn't live in reality.
To me, if he does believe that, then it exhibits a pattern where, like you said, John, he's running in circles around the actual reasons, and kind of looking at himself, in the mirror. Because I remember when the CGI thing was pointed out, he was like, "It's supposed to be." Yeah, I mean, he's saying it's supposed to look that way because it's a Speed Force, you know, and so it's meant to be wonky and stuff.
The Speed Force on a TV budget looks better.
I know.
A TV budget looked better than your movie.
Think about this. Nicolas Cage showed up to a set, put on the Superman, Liv's costume, and he with the whole like what did they didn't have trunks, but what did he have in that
The
costume?
thong.
He had a thong. Like the man put on a thong and the Superman costume that he never got to wear for to actually film with.
And
that
put his all into it. Like I remember
Like,
him describing.
Nick
I think it was
freaking
the
Cage.
Variety article, wasn't it? Where it
Yes,
was like the video where he was
he
like,
did a whole thing where like he came in, they shot him in the costume and everything for what was ultimately just like one camera shot, and then for whatever freaking reason they CGI'd the whole thing. And Nick Cage was like, I was disappointed because none of that made it into the movie. I'm like, why do that?
Him explaining it is one of the greatest things, but one of the most heartbreaking fucking, because you could see the sadness and the anger in his eyes that like his like performance, even if for like 3 minutes, was butchered. He was like,
again, his whole movie was taken away right before they started filming. This probably felt like closure to him, almost like the Spider-Man No Way Home with Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire coming back. I mean, at a much smaller scale, but like as a person, it felt like he was putting.
He had like little direction, but he's like,
Yeah.
okay, so the best I have is like, okay, the multiverse is dying. So he's like, what I tried to, and this is paraphrasing, of course. He was like, so I tried to look out onto this landscape and I see everything that has ever been or will ever be dying in front of me. So I tried my all to give it that, and it was washed away. And it was, oh God, it just like it hurts to like when I saw that for the first time, it like I was hurt. I wanted to fucking cry. Like, Nick, buddy, do you need a hug? Because bro, like I'm thank God for Spider-Man Noir, because that honestly that show looks fire and I can't wait for that. So that gives him something. But it's just like he just put his all into this 3-minute performance and we got nothing. But John Peters got his fucking Brainiac Spider. Great.
Yeah, and even I think
I said
Reeves
that
family,
for Teen Titans, but I don't mind them for a Flash movie.
But I do remember. I think the Reeves
my top
family
number
said
one
they
choice,
weren't really.
by the way, wouldn't happen. But he is directing a movie called The Running Man, so it kind of works. Edgar Wright for a Flash movie.
Yep.
Give me that. Give me that.
But just on the Flash situation, I did want to, and the Cameo Fest, Caleb, I did want to mention that, even the Reeves family was like, we weren't really consulted on, the Christopher Reeves animated cameo. And I think the same applied for like the Supergirl in that same continuity, the Supergirl movie from the 90s. Both of those actors, we get like these CGI versions of them. And I don't think either of their families or states were consulted.
Christopher Reeves' family did not sign off on that. I don't know about Helen Slater. Well, Helen Slater's still alive, so.
Well, yeah, but in
but
both
Adam West, George Reeves,
yeah.
That was hurtful.
Yeah.
That was terrible.
Yeah, and then Caleb saying resurrecting dead actors using CGI was so gross. I mean, look, if you can get the permission of their families,
Alien
then
Romulus.
They actually improved that apparently in the post theatrical release.
It's still mean.
But in that case, I think they got approval. So it's the thing about like with like Thrawn, for example, like it's you want to get the approval of the family, of the state, and then do it in a way that feels respectful. Like you want to build on it, you want to honor the legacy of that character and the actor particularly. So Peter Cushing. But in that case, with the Peter Cushing situation, they did get the permission from the family. So that was, I think, and done in good taste too, because it wasn't something like where it was like a cheap cameo. Like Peter Cushing's character has a few scenes. Like they had an actor come in, then ILM put in a lot of work at the time, but the technology is still not perfected. But yeah, I mean, these two situations aren't the same, but still, the Flash. Look, Andy Muschietti. Hopefully, in the back of his mind, he realizes there was just more than the fact that it wasn't a 4-quadrant movie, which like clearly it was meant to be that. I think the reason why it failed was because of all the other reasons we pointed out that you pointed out. Because Ezra Miller, the DCEU being a dying franchise where we knew that the DCEU was coming up.
Trust in DC
just
anymore.
no trust in DC. I mean, the movie is also not the greatest thing since sliced bread. If it came out 6 years earlier, it still wouldn't have made $1 billion. Maybe it would have made a couple of $100 million more. And because of the delays, the movie ended up costing Warner Brothers over $200, and they couldn't promote it. I mean, that's the other thing. They couldn't promote it nearly enough because Ezra Miller had such a PR issue at the time, and even does today. Like when you have an 70-year-old, I don't even know. I'm just saying I don't remember exactly how old Michael Keaton is, but when you have a 70-year-old Michael Keaton being at the center of your marketing for a Flash movie that's not even, the Batman film. It's a problem, and I mean, Liz, do you have anything else to add to this? I feel like we have dissected this to the point of where Andy Muschietti should know that he got this wrong. This take was
he
not
needs
good.
to shut up. He needs to shut up.
We need to listen to Liz's board in the back.
Just shut up. And don't blame women for your shortcomings, you fucking idiot. Just go ahead and stop doing that. Number one.
Hosea is saying that we have convinced them that, Andy needs to go. Yeah.
It's like, come on, like, oh, people don't like the Flash. Like, bitch's panties got wet for fucking Grant Gustin. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, fucking
And
loser.
Grant Gustin still talks about like there being a magical experience all these years later. I mean, he's on Broadway.
He said he
now.
would come back.
Yeah, he would. He would. Although it wouldn't have made sense.
I'd like
in
to
the
see him as
DCU,
Wally West, though.
But,
I think he got Wally West better than Barry Allen, but that's just me.
and the figure drawing with a great comment. I think that's probably the perfect comment to wrap this segment up, saying next week Andy is going to say the Flash movie was supposed to be bad. I had to make the Gunverse look better. I was the fall guy. That's perfect.
You wish you were the fall guy. You wish you were Ryan Gosling. You wish you were Lee Majors. Get the fuck out of here, Andy. No,
I mean, look, Andy Muschietti does well when he's working in that It franchise, seemingly, or like something that is not in a superhero genre. Like
with Andy.
Dr. Sleep was okay. I mean, he's done well with the It movies. Welcome to Derry is probably going to be good.
He didn't do Dr. Sleep.
Did he not do Dr. Sleep? Oh, okay.
No, that was Mike Flanagan. That was a good movie, so you knew it wasn't Andy Muschietti.
Well, there you go. I mean, I think people don't really like the second It movie, but like the first one.
I actually liked this. I liked It Chapter 2. I'm just saying most people didn't, so that's why I mentioned it.
Yeah.
But
well, my bad on the Dr. Sleep.
Honestly, bringing back John Wesley Shipp as the Flash would still be better than fucking, whatever the hell Ezra Miller was.
Yeah, I mean that doing a Flashpoint movie made more sense when it was part of the DCU. So again, the timing of it, like it was meant to be earlier in the DCU.
Well, what I was
and
bringing
up
up
go
about
somewhere. So
Dr. Sleep was because Caleb mentioned like, why don't you just have a lookalike actor? I'm like, that's what Mike Flanagan did, because he got a lookalike for Shelley Duvall and he got a lookalike for Jack Nicholson, and you know what? It worked. That movie's amazing, and it wasn't distracting with AI bullshit. So,
yep, exactly. And again, Caleb, good shout there. Definitely, you could do it. It's not very common, but it has been done. There's precedence for it. But hey, Andy Muschietti, please. In these interviews, I don't know if it's the language barrier. I don't know what it is. You just gotta like do a better job.
He wants his 15 minutes. That's what it is. He wants his 15 minutes. Yeah. And this is not the way you get it, dude. How about direct a good film and then we'll talk?
Yeah, let your work do the talking. Let your work do it. But hey, guys, let us know in the comments down below what you think about Andy Muschietti's comments, what you think about James Gunn's comments on Nicholas Holt's Lex Luthor. Of course, are you excited about Supergirl now in production? And the other news items that we covered, I'm sure we'll have more to get into tomorrow and the day after. There's so much going on in the world of DC. As always, we appreciate it. Hit that like button, hit subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you haven't already, so that way you know when we go live with a new show. Of course, we do end the show here at Also Curious Times DCU Daily with a look ahead to the movie of the week for next week. So coming out in a few days is Back in Action, and both figuratively and literally, because Cameron Diaz, who once upon a time retired from Hollywood, walked away years ago, is now back. And not only is she back, she's back in action with Jamie Foxx at Netflix. So this is a movie you don't have to go to a movie theater to check out. You can see it on Netflix at home, or on your phone, or on your TV screen. But I remember when this movie was first announced, and I was like, you know what? Look, it's probably not going to be a great movie because it's a Netflix film, but because it's got Jamie Foxx and Cameron Diaz in it, and because it's Cameron Diaz's first movie back out of retirement, I'm going to give it a shot. I'm not going to expect much out of it, but why not, So I wanted to ask you guys. I'll start with you, John, because you already kind of gave us a little bit of a preview of what your sentiments on this movie are. But will you check it out? Will you look forward to it? No, I'm not.
What? Why are we hankering for Cameron Diaz? The bitch can't even fucking act. What are you talking about?
The language.
God. Like, what do we do? Like, oh my God, I'm really hankering for another Cameron Diaz movie. What? Like,
how do you really feel,
like
John?
The worst part of every movie that isn't Shrek. Like,
what did she ever do to you?
It's just she's not a good actress. Like, I mean, she looks pretty. Like, sure, that's great, but like, she just can't act. no, like every movie like I've seen her in, she's just been terrible. And I just don't get like how it's like this big, oh, she's great. She's coming out of retirement for a shitty Netflix action movie that's ripping off the name from a much better movie. Looney Tunes Back in Action is better than Space Jam. There, I said it. But I don't care. Cameron Diaz can't act. Jamie Foxx is always great, but like
this feels like a night and day kind of a movie.
Yeah,
like where
it definitely feels
like
and that's not a
Tom Cruise
compliment.
I mean, I like Night and Day. I mean, Liz, what do you think? Are you looking forward to this? Or giving it a shot at least?
I'll watch it. I don't know that I'll get to it the moment it gets released. But I like both of them. I actually happen to like Cameron Diaz, just as a human being all around. I really could give
I'm
a
sure
shit
she's
whether
a
or not
nice
she can-
person.
I can give a shit whether or not she can act her way out of a paper bag. The things that I've seen her in are enjoyable, and she works well off other people. So I'm happy to watch it. I don't see that this is one I'm going to be rushing to right away the moment it's released. So
I mean, remember this is and also like Jamie Foxx. This is one of his first projects since his big accident, right? So
yeah.
Him coming, it's getting back in action both for Jamie Foxx and Cameron Diaz. And I mean, Man of Steel Magnolia is convinced now he wants to watch it. So I mean, the Rotten Tomatoes rating, we don't have one yet.
That's a problem.
I'm sure. Well, but I'm sure like we'll
not
get
out.
to that
It won't be out
eventually.
until Friday.
Most people don't
that
care.
embargo hasn't lifted yet.
Dude, like it's a
oh,
Netflix
Hal
movie.
Jordan is
Do
in
you
this.
really
That's
care?
a shame.
Also, Glenn Close is in
Glenn
there.
Close. What is with Glenn Close? Every
She's
movie
been doing some weird things.
she's
lately.
been doing. She did The Deliverance, which I heard was horrible. She did Brothers, which apparently was really bad. And didn't she do a couple other? I mean, she's doing this. Like,
I mean, she was in the Guardians movies.
Glenn Close, what are you doing?
Anyway.
God damn.
Well,
do you want to see it, Dan? Are you looking forward to it?
I am, because I've actually been looking forward to it since they announced it. Because look, I'm not expecting something that's going to be groundbreaking like Den of Thieves. This isn't going to be a movie that's going to be the best thing I see all year long. But again, like the headline says here on The Independent, Cameron Diaz walked away from Hollywood 10 years ago. And her return is just worth celebrating because she is somebody who has left quite the mark on Hollywood. And yes, she's not the greatest thespian out there, but she's a pretty good actress in her own right. She's improved over the years, and the fact that she's back, and I'm not saying she's going to be doing everything now in 5 movies a year, but look, I'm going to watch Shrek 5 when it comes out next year. I think this is a good way for her to start her comeback story. What?
Only thing in her career worth a damn.
Okay, calm down, man. I'm sure you've seen a Cameron Diaz movie or two that you appreciate. I personally appreciated her in Night and Day. There's a few other movies of hers that I really enjoyed. And of course, I think if you look back at The Mask, a lot of people will look back and be like, yes, Cameron Diaz was a good part of that movie. But also, this is one of those films like Den of Thieves 2, Pantera. It's not a movie that you go to get the best story that you've ever, seen anywhere. It's more just you watch it for the action, you get a few laughs. Sure, it's going to be middle of the road all around, but you know what? You're going to get to see a couple of actors you enjoy watching. And to me, again, you don't want to undersell the whole Jamie Foxx return thing. Yes, a lot of this is about, Cameron Diaz, but Jamie Foxx also is trying to make a comeback for himself because like what happened with Jeremy Renner, Jamie Foxx, like they've had these like health crisis and now they're getting to come back. Let's support them. Let's support what they're doing. The movies is a Netflix film, so there's a certain, ceiling in terms of the quality. It's very rare that you get a really good Netflix movie. So I'm not, again, going to have very high expectations, but I'll go in and see, how it does. I'll pop it on Netflix, try to get through it in one sitting. And if it does me well, then it does me well. If I'm disappointed, then I'm disappointed. You know what? It didn't at least cost me the price of a ticket,
although
and some gas out of my car to go see it in the movie theater.
Fun fact: the last movie she did was Annie, which also starred Jamie Foxx. So that's interesting.
That's right. So she was talking about how she was excited to work with him again, and that's part of the reason that she agreed to be on this project because she loved working with him so much. They had a great relationship.
Yeah. By the way, Lenny defending.
But it's just
Glenn
a shame
Close.
that Glenn Close is this amazing actress, and she's just in The worst.
Hey, actors get to that point in their career where they just said, "Yeah, why not? That sounds fun." So you know what? Good for her.
I mean, like at least get the award first and then fuck off, like Robert De Niro. Like he's just doing whatever. But Glenn Close, it's like, come on, like.
Look, at this point in her
damn.
career, Glenn Close
She's
has
over.
earned the right to do whatever the heck she wants to do in
I
terms of
guess
projects.
so.
She's good.
So, and to be quite frank, I think Jamie Foxx and Cameron Diaz have earned that right. And we don't have to watch this movie if you don't want to, but I implore you to go check it out. Give it a shot. See if you like it. If you don't, then, of course, you can always turn it off. It is on Netflix. You don't even have to walk out of a movie theater. You can literally just hit the back button or watch something else or just, I don't know, play a video game. Just, you have choices. But speaking of choices, you guys have the choice to hit that like button and the subscribe button, and then, of course, toggle that notification bell as John just did, so that way you know when we go live with another show. We are here. If you guys are new, we are here 5 days a week, Monday
Who
through
stole
Friday.
my lunch money? What are you talking about?
Somebody's
Finger
been
drawing?
stealing your lunch money for 2 years straight, apparently, John. You may need to.
Nobody
you may
stole
need
my
to
lunch
investigate.
money.
It's
Nobody stole
must
my
be where
lunch
the money's going. But
I got bullied
guys,
a lot, but I didn't. Nobody stole my lunch money. Actually, funny enough.
Interesting. All right. Well, I'll take advice from you when I'm doing the whole growing up thing again. Well, guys, have a great rest of your evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you're watching. Bolivia, Australia, Portugal, Canada, the United States, wherever you check, India, wherever you're checking this out from. We appreciate you. It's a global community, and we hope that you can continue to grow this community. Thank you so much for Silhouetted Animator. My words are a little weird right now. Silhouetted Animator and Lenny for the super chats earlier. To everybody for taking part. We appreciate you so much. Of course, go out there, watch a movie, a TV show, or anything DC related, because we'll be back tomorrow to talk about it. Until then, guys, have a good rest of your day, afternoon, morning, evening. John and Liz, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time on
Good night,
another
gang.
episode of Also Curious times DC Daily. Check us out tomorrow. We'll be back. Until then, goodbye.